American Comics, Saiyan powers shock Spider-Gwen and the universe. Episode 91, The Void is roaring, the calamity fire is rising, the superhero from another time and space. New York in the Marvel world is full of outstanding people. This sentence is really not enough. Not long after Loki opened the channel, Sun Wuming, who had finished his last cup of tea, left New York for Holy Place, preparing to take care of Loki after a while. The reason why we have to wait a while is also to let the disaster expand and cause more serious losses. In this way, Pierce will be more confident when impeaching Nick Fury. But as he waited, Sun Wuming suddenly discovered that on the edge of Manhattan, a powerful energy suddenly erupted, which was only slightly inferior to Gwen's current state. Out of curiosity, he traced the breath back to its source. Lorna Dane is a child who grew up in an orphanage. She is 16 years old this year. What is a little different from ordinary people is that she has awakened some special abilities since she was a child, and can control metal. But Lorna never showed it in front of people. Lorna, who has experienced the dangers of society and the warmth of human relationships since childhood, knows that being different from ordinary people will not bring admiration and envy, but only fear and hostility. It is even possible to kick yourself out of the orphanage and starve to death on the streets. So since she was sensible, Lorna has dyed her dark green hair black, trying to disguise herself as an ordinary person. However, these days are coming to an end today. The sudden appearance of huge cracks in the sky and the swarming Chitauri shattered the world's outlook, scurrying around like locusts, wreaking havoc in the city. A Chitauri soldier armed with high-tech weapons killed everyone on sight and soon arrived near the orphanage. Adults and children screamed and fled, while Chitauri screamed and fired at the crowd. Lorna almost subconsciously raised her 520 arm, lingering with light green light, and a car flew in front of people, splashing fierce sparks. With another wave, several steel bars flew out from behind and stabbed Chitauri through. After doing all this, Lorna turned back. She was just about to tell everyone to leave here quickly, but she saw a series of shocked and fearful eyes. Lorna felt a pain in her heart. Although she had expected this scene, she still felt sad when she actually saw it. No one spoke. A little girl wanted to come up to say thank you, but was stopped by the staff of the orphanage nearby. After looking at Lorna with a complicated expression, she followed the large group and ran towards the distance. Lorna stood there for a long time without moving. She knew that from now on, she would have to live alone. Suddenly, there was a chuckle from behind. Lorna turned around and saw a handsome young man who had arrived here at some point and was looking at her with interest. Sun Wuming was surprised. I didn't expect to see Miss Polaris in this world without mutants. But considering that both Wanda and Quicksilver can appear in the movie universe, having more Polaris is not a big deal. Somewhat uncomfortable with Sun Wuming's playful gaze, Lorna avoided his gaze and said, "You saw everything just now, right? Run away, I won't hurt you." No, no, no. Sun Wuming shook his head, "Your little ability can't hurt me." Under Lorna's horrified gaze, he raised his finger and shot a golden hull wave, which penetrated the Leviathan beast in the distant sky, triggering a strong explosion. Are you a Saiyan? Seeing this iconic attack method, Lorna quickly recognized his identity. Although she has not appeared in the public eye for more than a year, Lorna's memory is obviously good. Moreover, she also regards Saions as her own kind, possessing powerful super abilities, so she will naturally pay more attention to them. "It's me, Miss Polaris." Lorna asked doubtfully, "Do you know me? Why do you call me Polaris?" "This is not important. Just think of it as the nickname I gave you." Sun Wuming smiled and extended an invitation. "I see that you have nowhere to go. Do you want to follow me for now?" Seeing Lorna's wary gaze, Sun Wuming explained, "Don't get me wrong, I'm just interested in your ability, and my company also needs talents like you." "Really?" Lorna still didn't believe it. "There's no point in lying to you. Are you homeless now? Why don't you follow me first? At least we are all special, right?" Sun Wuming saw Lorna's joy after recognizing his identity, and knew exactly what this girl wanted. Lorna was fooled in just a few words. While Lorna was thinking, Sun Wuming received a call from Gwen. In the center of Manhattan, the Leviathan beasts there have exceeded double digits and are still increasing. They are unable to restrict Chitauri's movements at all. The intensity of the Battle of New York this time was much higher than that in the plot. Both Thor and Hulk had rebelled, and Tony and others were unable to survive alone. Sun Wuming knew that he could not delay any longer. "So, this lovely young lady, have you made a decision?" "Okay, I'll go with you." Lorna agreed. If the other party's strength had any intention towards her, there would be no need for so much nonsense. In this case, why bother worrying so much? Anyway, I am already homeless, so the situation cannot be worse. The right choice. Sun Wuming snapped his fingers, and the portal appeared in front of Lorna. "My name is Sun Wuming. You don't need to call me a Scion from now on. You can go sit at my house for a while and we can talk after I finish this war. Lorna has no hesitation and has taken over the past. After sending people away, he would finally end this war. The first thing that should be done is to make Thor and Hulk normal. The void is rumbling, and the calamity fire is rising high. The once prosperous Manhattan has become a thing of the past after the big chrysanthemum appeared in the sky. The taller the skyscraper is, the more likely it is to be attacked first. There were explosions and the roar of guns everywhere. Sun Wuming flew to the center of the thunderstorm and threw the Chi-Yuan-Zhan in his hand out for free. The Leviathan giant Kuan along the way was cut into pieces and fell helplessly on the street. Captain America and Natasha Romanoff, who were cooperating with the guard rescuers on the ground, breathed a sigh of relief. He finally took action, and I thought there was no hope. Natasha Romanoff held her aching waist. Hold on a little longer, and as long as the channel is closed, it will be victory. Although Captain America didn't like Sun Wuming's attitude of disregarding the law and rules, he had to admit that at the moment he was Blue Star's only hope. Thunderstorm Center. Thor was using his lightning to hit Tony and Gwen crazily. Where have you been? My suit has been recharged 3 times. Tony was covered in lightning, and the hair in his battle suit stood on end. He was about to be electrocuted. I just finished an interview. How did you learn the mantra of black braised eggs? Breaking through Thunder's blockade, Sun Wuming elbowed Thor to the ground and caught the Meowth hammer that he had let go of. You go find Loki's scepter. Use that thing to close the space channel. Tony said with some embarrassment, well, actually I went, but I couldn't beat the big guy next to him. Then do whatever you want, Gwen, leave this place to me, just stay away. Gwen, who had been playing with Hulk, made a gesture and ran towards the Chitauri team in the distance. Roar. Hulk wanted to catch up, but Sun Wuming slapped him into the ground. Don't you recognize me? Bang 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 bang. Holding down Hulk's head, Sun Wuming hit his head hard with the Meow hammer, trying to use physical methods to wake him up. But the teeth were being smashed out, and Hulk's eyes were still bloodshot, looking at him fiercely. Does physics no longer work? Sun Wuming frowned, wondering whether to kill him directly. But Thor can't kill him. He still owes Odin a favor. It would be unethical to kill his son. On a Chitauri flight, Loki also discovered traces of Sun Wuming and said to the supergiant, he is the final threat. As long as Sun Wuming is eliminated, no one can stop us from conquering. It's a good puppet. Supergiant licked his lips and flew over with Black Dwarf. The scepter in Loki's hand was held high, and the light shone brightly. After receiving the order, dozens of Leviathan giants turned around and rushed to the location of Sun Wuming. Are they all here? I'll save you time and go look for them one by one. Sun Wuming said easily, subduing the charging Thor, then opening a mirror space and throwing him and Hulk into it. Crush him to death for me. I will also pile him to death. Loki snorted and waved his scepter. Seeing Sun Wuming reminded him of the 30 minutes of free fall. What a shame. For a time, countless Chitauri soldiers and Leviathan beasts attacked Sun Wuming one after another, surrounding him, and seemed to really want to pile him to death with a sea of people. Loki was full of confidence at this moment, with a victorious smile on his face. The nearly endless Chitauri soldiers were his strength. After killing a group, more would immediately pour out from the space channel. However, Sun Wuming is even happier than Loki. If it's troublesome to have these Chitauri flying around, why don't we just give them away together? Huh. Sun Wuming shouted loudly, and the super-large turtle-style Qigong wave came out in response, like a beam of light reaching the sky and the earth, even more dazzling than the light of the space gem. At this moment, the smile on Loki's face disappeared. Supergiant's eyes were solemn, his lips were slightly opened, and he said something softly. Black Dwarf immediately jumped out of the flight machine. Soon, the light disappeared, and most of the Chitauri soldiers and Leviathan turned into the most primitive particles, floating between heaven and earth. The remaining Chitauri felt an unprecedented emotion called fear for the first time. Blue Star, so scary. Call. Before Sun Wuming could retract his pushing hand, the violent wind hit him. It turned out to be Black Dwarf, who took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack under the arrangement of Supergiant. The sharp axe blade with his strange power wanted to split Sun Wuming in two. The movement is too slow, and there is such a big movement in a sneak attack. Sun Wuming's expression remained unchanged, and the arrogance around his body exploded, knocking Black Dwarf away. Huge amounts of axe fell into Sun Wuming's hand, and with one stroke, he was cut in half from top to bottom. The tenacious vitality allowed Black Dwarf to live for 2 more seconds. In the last moment, his sanity seemed to have returned, with relief and gratitude to Sun Wuming in his eyes. It's finally over. Loki's expression changed drastically, and he quickly ran to Supergiant's side. Suddenly half of his army was gone, and Black Dwarf, one of the 5 obsidian generals, was also dead. He had already thought about retreating. How could a monster like Sun Wuming appear in just Midgard? What should we do now? Should we withdraw first? He looked at Supergiant. The woman still had a smile on her lips. Withdraw? Why, since you killed Black Dwarf, let him be his replacement. Oh, do you want me to work for the Family Planning Commission? Sun Wuming's voice came, and he flew in front of the two of them, scaring Loki so much that he backed away. Supergiant, on the other hand, showed no fear at all. She has seen too many people with strong bodies and special functions in the universe, but what the heck, such people are often not mentally strong. And what she is best at is mind control. Superplot looked at Sun Wuming in front of him and activated his ability calmly. 1 second. 2 seconds. Sun Wuming blinked. Supergiant's expression finally changed. Impossible. Why can't I control your mind? Because you are too weak. Grasping Supergiant's neck, Sun Wuming lifted her up. Not to mention, this woman has a pretty figure, but her face looks too alien. If he wasn't completely sure, how could Sun 3.0 Wuming come to Supergiant's side so carelessly? The wonderful uses of chi are endless. It is synthesized by the combination of physical energy and mental energy. All strong people who practice chi will increase their mental power simultaneously when their bodies become stronger. As long as chi exists, Sun Wuming is a super warrior who can resist both monsters and monsters. And how could Supergiant, a psychic who is not even a quasi-heavenly father, affect his heart distance? Gabba. There was a crisp sound of bone cracking, and before Supergiant had time to say his last words, his neck was broken and he lost his life. Don't kill me. This is a misunderstanding. Sun Wuming. This is a misunderstanding. Loki held up the mind scepter with both hands, with a look of horror on his face. Sun Wuming took it over with disgust in his eyes. You are a good man. I owe Odin a favor. Next time you come to me and cause trouble, I will definitely kill you. Loki nodded. The space rippled, and the Hulk and Thor were released. With the death of Supergiant, the two men's minds returned to normal. In an inconspicuous corner of Manhattan, a group of superheroes wearing white armor appeared out of thin air. Oh, that's a familiar scene. It was me holding the box egg and rushing into the space passage. The mask opened, revealing Tony's face, only much older. Look. Tony. Just as he was sighing, a huge amount of green monster pointed to the east. Everyone witnessed with their own eyes the shocking scene of Sun Wuming clearing the place with one wave of turtle qigong. Fake. This is Blue Star? Who is this tough guy? Friday, give you 3 minutes, I want all his money. Episode 92, The Battle of New York is over, time travel. The war between Texas and New York did not affect the homeland of the Western Cowboys. However, people also learned from TV that a group of strange aliens were invading the Earth. Many people were watching the live broadcast from reporters at home. So much so that the streets became deserted. An old man dressed as a gentleman walked on the street, looked up in the direction of New York, and took a deep breath. There are many fresh souls, and this one is special and powerful. It's a pity, we can't go there now. The old man seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes instantly darkened. Ancient One, let's see how long you can last. No, this special soul must be in hand. The old man's cane hit the ground hard, turned into a black smoke, and disappeared. Tony, don't forget our mission this time. Captain America reminded. They are Avengers who have traveled back to the past from future time and space. Their purpose is to collect infinite gems and resurrect those who died due to Thanos' snap of his fingers. Now is not the time to worry about where this person came from, you must seize the time to get the space gem and mind gem. I know, but it seems it will take some time for the battle to end. Tony nodded, the battle in New York had become something he didn't recognize. The chrysanthemums in the sky were much bigger than he remembered. Even after being cleared by the Macho Man in the sky, the remaining Leviathans were several times the size at that time. Let's do this for now. Let's go get the space gem. Banner, you go find Doctor Strange and get the time gem. The captain quickly made arrangements. Banner nodded and first found a scrapped car to practice his skills to avoid being noticed differently. Tony, Captain America, and Ant-Man went to the Stark building. Along the way, Tony also used technology that was ahead of its time to find information about Sun Wuming. Saiyan? Are you so fierce? Banner should really watch this video. The Spider-Man of this world appeared so early, Peter should still be in elementary school at 12. Huh? He actually has a good relationship with me. He must be a good person. That's great. Tony invaded his own database and read many records about Sun Wuming, his eyes became brighter and brighter. A strong man descended from heaven. Sun Wuming felt something and turned his head, but found nothing. Then he ignored it and continued to deal with the problem in front of him. There is basically no difference between Hulk regaining his consciousness and not being manipulated does not mean that his memory has disappeared. Just when he was about to yell, he met Sun Wuming's kind eyes. Woo, Sun Wuming? Is this the sound you should make? Seeing that the color on the Hulk was fading, Sun Wuming shouted loudly. Don't change back. The battle isn't over yet. The sudden voice frightened Hulk, and he actually maintained his Hulk form. Only then did Sun Wuming look at Thor with satisfaction. At the moment, Thor was grabbing Loki and beating him up. How dare you let someone control me? And you want me to lick your shoes? Loki, you've gone too far. Loki's still handsome face had been hammered into shape and was as swollen as a pig's head. Sun Wuming looked at it for 2 minutes before pulling Thor away. At the moment, Loki has taken in more air and released less air. Thor was also a little embarrassed. He didn't really want to beat Loki to death directly. He was afraid that Loki would make a big mistake this time and be killed by an angry Tony and others. As a result, Sun Wuming didn't stop him, so he had no choice but to keep fighting. Okay, stop pretending, for Odin's sake this time I will spare his life. Now is the time for you to make amends, and the remaining Chitauri are left to you and Hulk. Thank you, Wuming. I will punish him severely when he returns to Asgard. Thor said gratefully that at least Loki's life was saved. As for going back, he planned to send Loki to 100 years. It's not over yet. Are you going to use Tesseract to repair Bifrost? Return it to me when you're done with it. This is my trophy. After saying that, Sun Wuming picked up the scepter and flew to the Stark building, preparing to close the portal. Thor scratched his head in embarrassment. He could not decide the ownership of the Tesseract. The king of Asgard was still his father. If it were him, there would be no problem even if he gave it to Sun Wuming. Forget it, let's go back and talk to my father. When Hulk saw Sun Wuming walking away without hitting him again, his little eyes became excited. Seeing the body lying on the ground, Loki suddenly recalled how he was *D by Sun Wuming, and walked forward with a grin. Loki saw a shadow coming towards him and said in horror, "What are you going to do?" "That's enough. I am a god." Bang! 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 After a wild round of left and right, Loki looked at the sky with dull eyes, and Hulk curled his lips in disdain. What a weak god. Taking the scepter to the roof of the building, Sun Wuming was just about to plug it into the machine when Tony's anxious voice sounded in the headset. "Wuming. I saw you came to the top of the building. Don't close the portal yet. A combined bomb has been launched towards New York." Sun Wuming paused, then stuck the scepter in his hand, and Tony looked like he was going crazy from a distance. Why panic? Can't I just teleport away? Hearing this, Tony was stunned. Yes, this guy can open a portal, why am I in such a hurry? Ding! With a crisp sound, the scepter touched the space gem, and the machine stopped functioning. The big chrysanthemum in the sky was slowly closing, and Tony landed next to Sun Wuming. This is the trajectory of the missile. Go and solve it quickly, otherwise I will be terrified now. Sun Wuming nodded and suddenly realized something was wrong. Wait, Tony is by his side, who is that person in the building who is almost exactly the same as him? Damn it, it turns out that I am actually in this time and space? Sun Wuming immediately thought about something and said to Tony seriously, we must ensure that Loki and the space gem cannot be in the same time period. He has the ability to control the gem. Even tied up, it's not safe. Tony was stunned for a moment, and then he seriously agreed. Only then did Sun Wuming fly safely to the trajectory of the missile that Tony had mentioned. Infinite gems are important items to maintain the balance of the universe and can be regarded as the original power of this universe. What if Loki escaped with the space gem and was confiscated by the Time Administration? Then the universe will become extremely unstable. For the sake of a stable life in the future, Sun Wuming will never allow this to happen. Soon, the bomb entered New York at a speed exceeding Mach 3 and was about to arrive in front of Sun Wuming. He calmly drew a circle in front of him. On the other side of the portal was Mount Fuji in a certain cherry blossom country. Anyway, this country is used to things like nuclear weapons. It doesn't matter if it explodes again. You don't need to drain the sewage. I will get it right in one step. Call out. The missile passed through the portal smoothly, and Sun Wuming clapped his hands to remove the spell. Seeing this scene, Captain America, Black Widow, and Tony all breathed a sigh of relief. The crisis was finally resolved. You mean? Strange? On the rooftop of Holy Place from New York, Ancient One is communicating with Banner in his soul state. Yes, as long as we send the gems back to the original time node, nothing will change, and both universes will exist. Banner worked hard to introduce the feasibility of the plan to Ancient One. Please wait a moment, Mr. Banner. The Ancient One stretched out his hand to pick up the seal, and the eye of Agamotto on his chest slowly turned. For a moment, the passage of time seemed to appear in the Ancient One's eyes. After a while, Ancient One stopped moving. "You are right, Mr. Banner, Strange is the best among us, we have to believe in him." Banner was delighted. "Are you willing to hand over the gem to me?" Ancient One nodded and said pointedly, "I'll leave everything to you, Banner." Banner's soul returned to his true form, and when he was about to pick up the time gem, he was stopped by the Ancient One. "Wait, the Eye of Agamotto can't be given to you like this, I have to find someone to go with you." Under Banner's confused eyes, Ancient One opened the portal. Opposite him was Sun Wuming, who had just dropped the completed bomb. "Wuming, are you free? I need your help." Sun Wuming walked in and was a little confused when he saw Banner next to him. "Sir, this is it you?" Banner looked surprised. "Isn't this the tough guy just now? I need you to go to the future and bring the time gem back." Ancient One said softly. Before Sun Wuming could speak, Banner hurriedly retorted, "No, we don't have any extra quantum armor anymore. It's impossible for him to pass through the quantum tunnel. The power of time gem will help Wuming keep up with you. With his physical strength, there will be no problem even if the physical body appears in the nose tunnel. But, if a person knew the future, wouldn't it have a great impact on your universe?" Banner looked embarrassed. Playing with time will inevitably be played by time. The reason why they are so cautious is that they don't want to have any impact on this time and space. "Banner, don't you understand? Our time and space are completely different from yours, because of him." The Ancient One pointed at Wuming, and Banner was speechless. "Believe me, Wuming is far more important to you than Eye of Agamotto." Sun Wuming raised his eyebrows. Banner was silent for a moment, feeling speechless as people from the magician lineage spoke so vaguely. He said uneasily, "I need to ask Tony's opinion and the captain." As he said that, he contacted the two people through the communicator. With Sun Wuming's size, Loki had no chance to come into contact with the time gem. After a commotion, Tony and others successfully obtained the gem. Just as they were about to return to the future, they said Banner's message. "We'll be right over." Tony said with a serious face, looking at Captain America aside, "There was an accident over at Banner, go over there." Soon, they brought Ant-Man to the holy place. "Hey, Wuming, I saw your fight just now, it was awesome." Tony greeted us very familiarly, and he believed in his own vision. Sun Wuming smiled slightly, "You have aged a lot, Queen." After 10 years, coupled with the continuous blows he suffered, Tony, who had always taken good care of himself, showed signs of fatigue on his face. Time is the most magical phenomenon. Tony shrugged and did not continue to talk about this topic. "Magician, are you sure Wuming can survive in the quantum space without relying on the quantum battle suit?" "I'm sure." Ancient One said calmly. "Okay then." Tony took a deep breath and looked at his companions. "Things are already so bad, we have no choice. Since this magician has made a guarantee, we should believe him. This is the only chance." Captain America thought for a while and reminded Sun Wuming, "You can go, but you can't reveal too much when you come back, as it will affect this time and space. I have studied at Kamartosh for a period of time. I understand time better than you do." "That's good." The two leaders reached an agreement, and Banner and Ant-Man stopped talking. The Ancient One smiled and handed the Eye of Agamotto to Sun Wuming. "You must have read the Book of Weishan Emperor, right? Let me try." Sun Wuming opened his hands, the Eye of Agamotto floated in midair, and a green beam connected him to Ant-Man. "That's good, I locked your time as an anchor." Ant-Man Scott looked at the green line on his waist. Okay, if there's an accident, you won't be charged with manslaughter, right?" "No, I won't die even if you die." "Thank you." Ant-Man rolled his eyes and closed his mask. "Set off." As soon as the words fell, the 5 people instantly shrank to within the horizon and could not be observed, and entered the quantum tunnel. The colorful quantum tunnel is like the capillaries of the human body, with countless exits and passages. If you take a wrong step, you may end up in an unknown world. Sun Wuming did not dare to be careless at all, and followed Ant-Man with all his concentration. The strange cells that appeared from time to time were mercilessly crushed by the arrogance around him. This shocked Tony and the others. There is no concept of time in the quantum world, and Sun Wuming didn't know how long he had been flying. It seemed like just 1 second, and it seemed like a year had passed. Finally, the group of people turned into a passage without any forks and squeezed into a bubble. Episode 93, let Tony give birth to a daughter as soon as possible, and the endgame begins. The little raccoon's scream startled everyone, and Thor excitedly raised his axe and hammer when he saw Sun Wuming, whom he had never seen before. So much so that they didn't realize that although there were still 10 people, that was counting Sun Wuming. "Don't get excited, Thor, he is not an enemy." Tony quickly stepped forward and stood between Thor and Sun Wuming. This is the person sent by Strange's teacher. Without him, Ancient One would not have given us the time gem. Thor still didn't believe it, but he didn't wear protective clothing, and he didn't have Pym particles. How did he get here? Thor, it's very complicated here. You just need to know that he is very strong. It seems that he has a good relationship with you in that time and space, but he is definitely not on good terms with me. Tony's explanation finally made everyone temporarily lower their guard. Only then did he notice Hawkeye kneeling on the ground, his face full of sadness. Clint, where is Natasha Romanoff? Where has he gone? Banner had a bad feeling in his heart. Hawkeye said nothing, tears streaming down his cheeks. There was a moment of silence. Natasha Romanoff stayed in Bomber Star forever and exchanged her life for the Rain Gem. The Avengers who lost their comrades were depressed for 3 full days before they managed to cheer up and choose to continue to look forward. The memory of Natasha Romanoff turned into motivation and a funeral was held for her. The Avengers will advance the progress to the next stage. Now that all the gems have been collected, all that's left is to create a pair of gloves that can hold the gems and set them in place. In the small conference room, Tony showed the glove model he designed. Thor, you know the Infinity Gauntlet and gems best, please give me some advice. Everyone here has come into contact with a few infinite gems, or even an Infinity Gauntlet. But in terms of understanding, only Thor, who was born in Asgard and has a long heritage, can barely qualify. Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet was created by Nebeta's dwarf, and there is even a replica in Odin's vault. Thor also understood this, stood at the front, and cleared his throat. Sun Wuming looked at him with interest and took out his mobile phone to take 2 photos. Wuming, what are you doing? Thor was a little confused by his move. Nothing, I just want to take him back to show Thor and our world his potential in the future. As he spoke, he gestured with his hand and drew a big garden. Thor in his time and space is still an absolutely handsome guy, but look at this, pork belly. So interesting. Feeling a little embarrassed by his words, Thor regretted for the first time that he had given up on himself all these years. Ahem. Wuming, don't make trouble. You can't let others know about your travels through the world. It will cause immeasurable consequences. It's okay, I can tell Thor that this is what I saw using the time gem. Seeing that Sun Wuming was not doing anything, Thor could only sigh resignedly and change the subject. Each infinite gems has a powerful power, and ordinary materials cannot carry its power. How about vibranium? Tony rubbed his chin, I can go to Wakanda and get some vibranium. It's a way, but it's best to have URU metal. AI Choi used URU metal to help Thanos build the gloves. Captain America frowned, Asgard has been destroyed. Where can we find URU metal? Steve. Thor said dissatisfied, Asgard is not destroyed, only Asgard was destroyed, my people are still there. Sorry, Thor. Well. Sun Wuming suddenly interrupted them, if you need URU metal, I have some people here. With that said, he opened the portable space and took out a piece of the wreckage of the destroyer. This portable space is an extension of the mirror space, which is equivalent to opening up a small dimension that exists independently without interference from time and space. Great. It will be much easier to handle with URU metal. Thor took it in surprise and said after confirming it. Thanks, Wuming. Tony patted Sun Wuming on the shoulder, stood up and said, then let's get started and build our own Infinity Gauntlet as quickly as possible. Things are not as simple as imagined, and the research on Infinity Gauntlet has reached a bottleneck. The energy of the 6 gems gathered together is too powerful, and often the gloves they make can only withstand 2 or 3, and they will disintegrate and explode. However, Tony is really ruthless. When he stayed up late and was exhausted, he developed a new alloy based on the characteristics of infinite gems that release powerful gamma rays. This alloy is not comparable to vibranium or URU metal in terms of hardness, but in terms of compatibility with infinite gems, it is even better than the two. With several people spending time in the laboratory every day, Sun Wuming was somewhat idle. But he soon found new pleasures. You should call me Uncle Wuming, not brother. At Tony's house, sitting in front of Sun Wuming was a little blonde Lolita with a rosy face, a bit of chubby flesh, and a cute appearance. To be able to give birth to such a lovely daughter, there is something in the genes of the Stark family. But you look like a brother, just like Brother Peter in the photo. Little Morgan pointed to a photo frame in the kitchen and said innocently. Inside is a photo of Tony and Peter. Sun Wuming picked up little Morgan and lifted her up high, making the little loli giggle. That's because I came back from the past and am friends with your father, so you have to call me uncle. Really? I don't believe it. Don't imitate that host. Pepper watched the loving interaction between the two and couldn't help but smile. This friend who suddenly appeared from the past time and space seems to really like little Morgan. Okay, let's have lunch quickly. Uncle Wuming will go to find Dad later. Little Morgan blinked his big eyes, can you take me there? It will take a while. Dad will come back to accompany you when he is done with his work. Sun Wuming rubbed the little Loli's blonde hair and said, "Go and wash your hands." Morgan ran away quickly, but Sun Wuming's smile never disappeared. "When I get back, I will definitely advise Tony to have a baby with you as soon as possible. This is a gift from God to me and him." Pepper looked at Morgan's back and said softly, "The moon and stars are sparse." Sun Wuming sat on top of the Avengers' headquarters, looking at the bright full moon in the sky, without any thought of transforming into a giant ape. Because half of the population has been reduced, the air quality of the entire blue star has improved a lot. But it has to be said that Thanos has a poor understanding of mathematics and human sociology. What's the use of killing half of them? It won't take long for Blue Star to bring you back alive. He watched the news these days, and all kinds of public service announcements were overwhelming. After the Twinkle incident, the global fertility rate has exceeded 3% every year, and will return to its peak in less than 30 years. Why don't you sleep? You are still in the mood, Yu Xingho. Just when Sun Wuming was complaining about Thanos in his heart, Tony flew to his side wearing a suit. "Flying around in your armor in the middle of the night, you are really sick." Sun Wuming rolled his eyes, and Tony didn't mind. He took back the nanosuit, casually sat beside Sun Wuming, and handed him a cup of coffee. "How's the progress of the gloves?" Sun Wuming took it and took a sip. "Some of them are not used to the taste. He has never been able to drink this stuff. It should be almost done in these 2 days. Wuming, do you think we can succeed?" Tony's voice was a little confused. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. It took several years to finally calm down, but now that he saw hope, Tony began to worry about gains and losses. Thinking of Peter disappearing from his arms, he would always wake up from his dreams these days and then suffer from insomnia until dawn. You are just under too much pressure. Since Sorcerer Supreme has agreed to lend the time gem to you, it means that she is sure to recycle it, and the outcome is self-evident. Sun Wuming did not go into too much detail, but only used Ancient One's actions to give side hints. But it also made Tony feel a lot more at ease. Strange said that among the more than 14 million endings, they only had one winning ending. Looking at it now, it seems that they are on the right path. Patting Tony on the shoulder, Sun Wuming looked at Mingyu. "Have a good rest these 2 days, everything has just begun." 2 days later. Slower, slower. Tony, Banner, and Rocket Raccoon, these 3 top scientists squatted in front of a small glass box, watching Tony control the robotic arm and put the rough stones into the red gloves one by one. They even held their breath for fear of causing any impact. Snap. As the last gem was embedded, the 3 of them stared at the red gloves. There was no change for a while. Yes. Success. The little raccoon punched hard. 15 minutes later, everyone gathered in the laboratory. Except Nebula. Sun Wuming glanced at it and had no intention of reminding Tony and others that Nebula had been swapped. Compared to Nebula, he was an outsider. When he came up and said that he was an undercover agent, few people would believe him. And more importantly, didn't he come to this time and space just to find Thanos? So, who's going to put on the gloves and snap their fingers? The final question is before everyone. I come. Thor rushed forward excitedly, but Captain America and Tony quickly stopped him. Thor, you are not suitable now. Why? I am Thor, son of Odin, Lord of Asgard. Do you know what's going on in my body? Cheese and cheese? Rhodes interrupted abruptly, everyone's lips twitched, and Sun Wuming almost laughed out loud. So heartbreaking. No, Thor, after my examination, it seems that your body cannot bear such a great force. Tony wanted to explain something else, but was interrupted by Banner. I'll do it. You have all seen what happened to Thanos. Hulk walked up to the gems. These stones emit gamma rays, just like. I exist for this moment. Tony didn't refuse. When he discovered the characteristics of infinite gems, a candidate already appeared in his mind. Banner is well aware of this. Remember, after putting on the gloves, you must always think about bringing the people who were killed by Thanos 5 years ago back to the present. Other than that, don't change anything. While Tony kept urging Banner. Nebula quietly touched the huge amounts of shuttle machine. After an operation, the Nebula award time was set to 2014, and the shuttle machine was activated again. A battleship shot out from the whirlpool of the time machine, quickly grew in size, broke through the roof, and flew into the clouds. Almost at the same time, Banner snapped his fingers. Sun Wuming's face became solemn, and an energy so huge that even he was shocked, swept across the entire universe. Then it fell silent. After doing all this, Banner fell to the ground in pain. Tony quickly ran over to spray medical drugs and took off Banner's gloves. Others came to the window nervously and looked at the world without any changes. Did they succeed? Eat this, it should work. Sun Wuming stuffed a fairy bean into Banner's mouth, and soon, the almost useless arm quickly recovered. What is this? Tony was simply stunned. Just now, he thought that Na would have to live without an arm for the rest of his life. Unexpectedly, he was cured right away. Shando, I can leave some for you if you want. Sun Wuming said casually. Since he got the eternal soil, he has planted a lot of fairy beans. He harvested nearly 100 fairy beans in the first year and successfully achieved the freedom of fairy beans. Giving some to the Tonys of this world is a small thing. Thank you very much. Tony agreed immediately. He couldn't care less about being polite with such a life-saving weapon. Jingle bell, jingle bell. The phones of several Avengers rang. Looking at the names that reappeared on them, Hawkeye and Ant-Man almost cried and quickly answered the phone. Coming. Sun Wuming suddenly said something. What? Tony, who was immersed in joy and wanted to immediately fly the spaceship to Titan to bring Peter back, was stunned. Boom. 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 In the sky, Holy Place No. 2, which had returned to its full size, aimed all its muzzles at the ground and launched energy bombs one after another. In an instant, the sky collapsed and the earth shattered, and the waves surged. The Avengers building collapsed, and seawater poured in and spread along the ruins. A blue teleportation beam fell from the spacecraft, and a purple figure wearing a golden armor and holding a double-edged sword appeared on the ground. Thanos, Episode 94, Sun Wuming vs. 5 Gems. Thanos, Doctor Strange, run away. Among the desolate ruins, Sun Wuming lowered his raised arm. Under his protection, the laboratory remained intact. You play with time, and time will play with you. Tony murmured, seeming to already know what was happening. The final war has begun, Tony. Sun Wuming said to him. You're right, the last battle. Tony found the unconscious Captain America, and the three of them walked out and stood on the ruins, looking at Thanos sitting on a small stone pier not far away. Sun Wuming also walked out. Thanos raised his head. Unknown human being, I have never seen you. Sun Wuming smiled, like you, I came from another time and space. Before I came, I just killed your black dwarf and supergiant in New York. Thanos played with the pebbles for a moment. If Tony hadn't suddenly appeared, you in that universe might have died. Sun Wuming said it casually, and Thanos crushed the stone in his hand into powder. Sad arrogance, countless people wanted my life, but they all fell on my way to my ideal. Blue Star is very special. Your resistance is very tenacious, and you were able to achieve this step. But everything should end here. Oh? Then why didn't you dare to come to Blue Star when Ancient One and Odin were still alive? Sun Wuming walked forward and came not far from Thanos. The two people looked at each other, and the air became chilly. The three giants of the Avengers Alliance followed closely behind. Thor summoned his armor again, Tony was fully armed, and Captain America held the shield tightly. Why didn't you say it anymore? Weren't you pretty good at pretending just now? Sun Wuming continued to press. Pointless arguments cannot change your outcome. Thanos shook his head and put on his helmet. At least it's me who's standing here now, and it's me you have to face. I thought that eliminating half of all life would bring prosperity to this universe, but you proved to me that that is impossible. Thanos seems to be reflecting on himself. As long as there are still people who are concerned about the past, it will never be possible to accept the future. Sun Wuming reminded, it's not us, it's me. Wuming, don't be impulsive, Thanos is not that easy to deal with. Tony quickly reminded him that he still could not forget the opponent's overwhelming strength when he was on Mars. No, that's why I came here, Wang and I. Sun Wuming moved his hands and feet. Definitely, it's not you now, Thanos, you are too weak. Number 470. Thanos slammed his sword down hard, and Holy Place No. 2 teleported out the 5 obsidian generals and a large number of biochemical beasts, Chitauri. These miscellaneous soldiers are left to you. Sun Wuming said, and strong arrogance erupted all over him. The ruins on the ground were shaken into powder, and the huge energy set off a huge wave. The strong air current forced Thor and the others to retreat continuously to avoid Sun Wuming's sharp edge. Thanos looked solemn and tightened his sword. Sun Wuming's body flashed, and the next moment he swung in front of Thanos, and his fist wrapped in arrogance went straight to Zishu's head. Thanos reacted very quickly, holding a knife behind his back, and hit him hard. Clang! The dull knocking sound shook out huge amounts of shockwave. What shocked Thor and the three of them was that Thanos was blown away far away with just one punch. Sun Wuming refused to give up and pursued him again. This time, huge amounts of deep pits appeared on the ground. Too weak, it's because of something. How can you put pressure on me like this? Sun Wuming shouted dissatisfied, why are you so weak? Sun Wuming has seen two strong heavenly fathers, and the quasi-heavenly father, destroyer armor is one, but the weakness of the destroyer armor is too obvious, and the battle relies entirely on divine instinct. didn't cause him any trouble. Coupled with the fact that another year has passed, Sun Wuming's strength is far greater than before. Among quasi-heavenly fathers, Thanos is definitely at the top of the list. But even with him like this, facing Sun Wuming's attack, he could only rely on his powerful racial ability to hold on. Thanos was born into the Eternal Titan family, possessing extremely powerful strength, resilience, and durability, and has extremely high resistance to all kinds of damage. In particular, Thanos is still the leader among the Eternals, and his ability to resist blows is directly maxed out. However, Thanos, who has been in the universe for many years, never suffered such humiliation. He was pressed to the ground and rubbed, and roared rage from his mouth. He found the right moment and hit Sun Wuming on the head with a headbutt. Sun Wuming was stunned and returned a headbutt without showing any signs of weakness. Boom! The ground sank several meters again. Thanos! Why are you so weak without gems? He came here to find a chance to break through and successfully transform into a Super Saiyan. How could Thanos, who is so weak, be able to bring pressure to him? Seeing Sun Wuming's great power, Tony and the other three immediately relaxed and concentrated on dealing with the 5 Obsidian Generals and the Dark Order. Among the ruins, a battle for the Infinity Gauntlet was taking place. Not long after, the recovered banner also joined the battle, but it was still difficult to hold on. Chitauri, Leviathan, the 5 generals, those war beasts that are tens of meters high, are blocked by 4 methods. And Holy Place number 2 in the sky is not a vegetarian either. They must carefully dodge every energy bomb. At this critical moment, a fire portal opened from behind Captain America. On your left. Falcon flew out first, followed by Heibao in battle suit and thousands of Wakanda people. The magicians of Kamartaj took action together and illuminated the dark sky. Captain America looked at these comrades who had disappeared for several years. For a moment, his emotions surged and his nose became sore. It's back, everything's back. Another portal opened, and Strange returned to the hungry blue star with a few people who had disappeared on Titan. Rumble. A huge figure emerged from the ruined building of Avengers. Ant-Man directly opened the entire building and got rid of the trapped Hawkeye and others. Captain America clenched the shield in his hand and roared. The Avengers. The people standing behind him gave him endless power. Assemble. The crowd roared immediately and rushed towards the Dark Army. The final battle to determine the fate of the universe officially began. Since Thanos was being beaten by Sun Wuming, Ebony Maw had to temporarily act as the commander. With a wave of his right hand, almost all the troops on Holy Place number 2 were mobilized. Hey, Mr. Stark, you'll never guess what happened. Do you remember we were in space? Before the talkative Peter finished speaking, Tony hugged him tightly. Sorry, although the scene of the father and son's reunion was very touching, Stark, I need you to answer some questions. Doctor Strange floated in front of the two of them, pointing at Sun Wuming, who kicked Thanos in the balls with a very wonderful expression. Who is he? Tony immediately recovered from the emotion of the reunion. Hey, juggler, you said we have a 1 in 14 million chance of winning, is that now? Doctor Strange was speechless. This is wrong with the script I saw. In the future he saw, the one who won was not this macho man, but Tony. Stark, tell me who he is. Doctor Strange avoided the question and continued to ask. Wuming is a variable in that time and space. The condition for Ancient One to hand over the time gem is to let Wuming come with him. Strange, is there something wrong? Tony suddenly became nervous. No matter what situation I observed, he did not appear. Strange shook his head under Tony's shocked gaze, his eyes complex. Stark, I can't see clearly. But we should believe the teacher, she must have her reasons for doing this. Okay, this is not a bad thing, at least with him here, we have a great chance of winning. Tony took a deep breath and said in the contact channel, where are the infinite gems? Hawkeye held his gloves and ran around like a headless fly, avoiding the enemy's fire. In my case, Nebula is a traitor. He is Nebula from that time and space, and has been solved by Gamora. Take the gems as far away from the battlefield as possible. Hulk said quickly, no, Tony. We have to send the gems back. No chance, the machine has been destroyed by Thanos. Tony shook his head and heard Ant-Man's voice, we have another time machine. But it will take 10 minutes to repair it. Ant-Man presses a button, and the cheerful little speaker is particularly abrupt in the fierce battlefield. Okay, Scott, you go repair the machine. Hawkeye, send the gems over there. As for Wuming, we will send him back after the battle. Captain America quickly gave the order. In the center of the battlefield, because of the battle between Sun Wuming and Thanos, there was no one around, for fear of being accidentally injured by the two. At the moment, Thanos was in a very embarrassed state. His originally shining armor was smashed into pieces, with less than half of it still hanging on his body. One side of the double-sided sword capable of breaking vibranium was also broken. Judging from the gap, it was forcibly broken by Sun Wuming. Boom. After kicking Thanos away, the disgust on Sun Wuming's face was visible to the naked eye. Why are you not Heavenly Father, Thanos? I am so disappointed in you. Ahem. Thanos stood up with difficulty, his eyes still determined. Sun Wuming looked a little dazed. Who is the villain? Could it be that Thanos is also Blue Star's purple-skinned big brother who came by spaceship? Thanos didn't speak, breathing heavily. Even the Eternal Titan couldn't bear being beaten like a sandbag by Sun Wuming. He raised his head and out of the corner of his eye saw little Spider-Man Peter rushing towards the car with the Infinity Gauntlet in his arms. Drink. Thanos launched another attack, but this time, he deliberately adjusted the angle. Sun Wuming raised his elbow to block the chop and punched him in the stomach. Thanos' eyes bulged and he spurted out a mouthful of blood. Blue light bloomed on the fist, and qigong waves were launched, sending Thanos flying high into the air. And the place where he fell was right on the path of little Spider-Man. Holding back the severe pain, Thanos grabbed Peter's spider legs, snatched the Infinity Gauntlet from his arms, and then slapped Peter away with a palm. No. Wuming. Stop him quickly. Many superheroes who were paying attention to what was going on here changed their faces and shouted crazily. It's useless. Thanos had already put the gloves on his hands, and powerful energy penetrated his body. With a physique stronger than Hulk, he resisted. I am destiny. Under the desperate gaze of countless people, Thanos snapped his fingers. Then. Nothing happens. The wind is very noisy. Thanos looked at the Infinity Gauntlet in his hand in shock and found that one was missing from it. Did I say you didn't notice it? Sun Wuming calmly spread his hands and pushed it in front of his chest, and the Eye of Agamotto emerged. After Banner snapped his fingers, I took back the time gem. Well done. Wuming. Tony shouted excitedly. Thor excitedly waved his axe. Yes. I knew it. So, Destiny, do you want it? Sun Wuming played with the Eye of Agamotto, his tone full of provocation. Kill me, and the time gem will be yours. Sun Wuming. Thanos was furious, and the power gems on his gloves lit up. I will not only kill you. I will destroy this universe. I will also go to your universe. No one will be left behind. So what if one time gem is missing? With the 5 gems in hand, no one in the universe can be his opponent, not even the Ancient One and Odin are resurrected. Then come on. Sun Wuming assumed a fighting stance of Gizan style. Aha! Thanos threw away his sword, and with a flash of light, the space gem teleported behind Sun Wuming and smashed it down in the air. Rumble. With the 2 people at the center, the earth began to crack, and violent air waves blew countless people away. With the blessing of the Power Stone, Thanos' pure power is the strongest in the universe. This blow. Sun Wuming was directly blasted out of the earth, cracks appeared in his body, and horrifying blood oozed out. Ha 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 ha. After locking Thanos' energy, Sun Wuming, who had been blasted to the vicinity of Mars, returned to the battlefield instantly. Not only did he have no fear, he also laughed like crazy. That's it. The feeling of bleeding, the feeling of being hurt. That's wonderful. Thanos. Let's fight. The crazy look on his face, even Thanos was shocked. Madman. This is a madman who is crazy about fighting. Not daring to be careless, Thanos activated the power gem again. If he snapped his fingers and used one gem alone, it would not put any burden on the roots of his body. After another shocking collision, Sun Wuming's injuries worsened again, but his smile became brighter. However, Blue Star couldn't hold on any longer. The American plate has begun to split, earthquakes exceeding magnitude 10 have erupted one after another, and cracks in the earth have swallowed up countless lives. Strange tried his best to block the aftermath of the fight between the two, with blood oozing from his eyes and nose, and shouted at the other magicians, "Open the portal! Run away!" Episode 95, Transformation, Super Saiyan. The magicians were also frightened by this natural disaster scene. After Doctor Strange's order, they quickly opened the portal. The Avengers' army ran back faster than when they came. The Dark Legions that caught up sporadically were also eliminated by Tony and others, and the rest were all annihilated in the 4th collision between Sun Wuming and Thanos. Strange still felt that it was not safe, so he and Wong used the mirror space to bring everyone into a different latitude, and he was relieved. Can you see the battle outside? Tony asked eagerly, what if Sun Wuming loses? Wouldn't the time gem be obtained by Thanos? Then what's the use of hiding here, they will still die in the end. Doctor Strange did not speak, but drew a circle with his right hand in front of his body. Soon, the space in front of everyone was distorted, showing the scene of New York at the moment. No! Countless people exclaimed, covering their mouths in pain, and grabbed a magician's arm with excitement. Let me out. Laura is still out there. The scene outside was too tragic. From their perspective, New York had been completely submerged, and the seawater had submerged the torch of the Statue of Liberty. Thanos and Sun Wuming constantly collided on the sea, and every time they clashed, they would set off huge waves. Calm down, Barton. Doctor Strange shouted, but his voice was trembling slightly, and he was deeply shocked. It's useless, the American continent is completely shattered, the Black continent and Europe are also disintegrating, the world is over. If someone could look at the blue star from space, they would find that the atmosphere that has shrouded the blue star all year round has begun to dissipate. The blue water surged crazily, forming a large whirlpool that could be clearly seen even from space. Tsunamis measuring thousands of meters, temperatures plummeting by dozens of degrees, volcanoes erupting, tornadoes forming, and natural disasters that have occurred in history have occurred all over the world. If this continues, it will be a matter of time before Blue Star disintegrates. Tony stared at the screen, biting his lip until it bled. Pepper burst into tears, and there were many others like them. Their wives and children were still on the Blue Star. How could they possibly survive such a world-destroying disaster? I'll snap my fingers again. Banner suddenly said loudly, and countless people looked up. Everything will come back. You have returned from 5 years ago to the present, and they can also come back after Wuming's victory. Banner's words gave everyone hope that as long as the infinite gems were recaptured, everything would be saved. Now, their last hope is Sun Wuming. There was heavy rain in the sky, lightning and thunder, and the smell of sulfur in the air. A large number of volcanoes on the Blue Star began to erupt due to violent, crustal movements. Sun Wuming bumped fists with Thanos again. This time he made some progress, flying to the moon and teleporting back. Things have turned around. Just now, Thanos was beaten so hard by Sun Wuming that he couldn't stand up straight, and his armor was shattered. Now it was Sun Wuming's turn to become ragged, revealing his strong muscles. Traces of blood dripped down the body into the sea, disappearing into the invisible. Sun Wuming's arms were trembling, but there was only excitement on his face. Come again, Thanos. Thanos looked calm, and the 5 gems gave him an unparalleled title. Even if you can resist so many attacks from the Power Stone, you can still be alive and well. Reality Gem's brilliance flashed, Thanos' figure flashed, and dozens of Thanos came out of his body. They didn't have the Infinity Gauntlet in their hands, but they wielded the Storm Axe to trigger thousands of thunders, surrounding Sun Wuming. I have witnessed the glory of the Eternal Titan, and I have also been reborn from 1,000 ruins. I came in response to the call. I relied on the truth and was no longer bound by rules to slaughter thousands of planets. The benefit of tens of millions of blades and the fury of tens of thousands of smoke are stirring in my heart. The universe needs balance, and everything in the world needs to be restrained. Thanos' monologue swept through the world, and the only real audience was Sun Wuming. I am Thanos, the Dark Titan who walks on the path of seeking. I am not weaker than anyone in my life. The Ancient One and others also come to an end due to their respective weaknesses. Sun Wuming, you are the ultimate threat and my most admired enemy. Thanos said calmly, the power of gems will take you away from the sinking of the mortal world, and all the creatures in the universe will be buried with you. Sun Wuming slowly raised his right hand, which was spread flat, then come on. Click. Almost at the same moment, all the thunder axes on the field worked together, drawing thousands of thunderbolts from the sky and striking Sun Wuming directly. As for the real Thanos, with his right hand clenched into a fist, the mind gem bloomed, forming a violent shockwave that swayed the mind. Then, the space gem glowed brightly, and the surrounding space instantly shattered, introducing turbulence into the void. In the end, Hikari was handed over to the purest gemstone. The dark purple shockwave annihilates everything with its absolute power. Compared to Odin Ancient One, Thanos' own strength is definitely much weaker, but he has his own unique advantage, which is to make good use of the power of gems. Odin abandoned the space gem, and the Ancient One rarely used the power of the time gem. Only Thanos, in order to complete his great deeds, conducted in-depth research on each gem. Even though Infinity Gauntlet can only be used individually one by one, his use has already entered the realm of transformation. Sun Wuming's eyes were solemn as never before. Under the breath induction, Thanos around him seemed to be real, and their attacks were also real. The greatest threat is also the ray stimulated by Thanos' true body using the Power Stone. KO Fist. Twice. Red flame soared into the sky, and the nearby seawater was evaporated, revealing seedlings thousands of meters below. Sun Wuming clasped his hands on his waist. Kamehame. Ha. Huge amounts of Turtle School Qigong rushed forward without showing any signs of weakness, and began to wrestle with the Power Gem's shockwave, but Shireen was defeated. Sun Wuming let out a muffled groan, and blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth. He relied on his body to resist the bombardment of dozens of thunder axes, and his eyes became brighter and brighter. He felt it. The blood in the body is boiling and roaring, the muscles are constantly torn and healed, and the bones are rattling under the huge pressure of the power stone. But, a strange factor slowly awakened in Sun Wuming's body, bringing his entire state to its peak. Drink ah. The full power super turtle Qigong was pushed back, and Sun Wuming was blown out of outer space. He took out a fairy bean and stuffed it into his mouth, and then rushed back immediately. Boom. Boom. Space gem, power gem, mind gem, reality gem. Thanos used the power of the 5 gems to still suppress and beat Sun Wuming, but he felt uneasy in his heart. He is getting stronger like crazy. From being crushed by the power of gems at the beginning to being at an absolute disadvantage now, Sun Wuming's progress in just tens of minutes of competition is jaw-dropping. He couldn't go on like this, and the murderous look in Mia Zhang's eyes became even more intense. Sun Wuming, on the other hand, has entered a strange state. He only knows how to attack, be knocked away, attack again, and be seriously injured. At this time, a stream of light appeared in outer space, shining with gold and silver light, like twin stars entangled together, staying in the stratosphere. This is a blonde woman wearing a tight battle suit, none other than Captain Marvel Carol. Seeing the current miserable situation of Blue Star, Carol's face showed anger and continued to land, seeing Sun Wuming constantly pestering Thanos. Let me help you. Carol chose to help Sun Wuming without hesitation. The power of the binary star mode is fully activated, and the whole person dives in front of Thanos. Get away. The first one to attack was not Thanos, but Sun Wuming. He knocked Captain Marvel away with one punch and went back and forth, becoming the superhero with the shortest screen time. This is my fight. The red momentum is getting stronger and stronger. There is anger in Sun Wuming's heart. Hate. Nothing can be done in this day. Hate. There is no ring in this place. Why am I so weak? A trace of golden lightning appeared in the arrogance, the thunder in the sky constantly roared and fell, and the ocean cooperated to set off huge waves. At the moment, Blue Star has completely turned into Blue Star, and all the continents have been swallowed by the ocean. The powerful aura prevented the waves from falling, floating strangely in the air, and then directly vaporized under the strong pressure. Drink ah. Sun Wuming's sound shook the sky and pierced the clouds. In an instant, the sky and the earth turned pale, and Mia's pupils shrank sharply. A violent golden air flow rose up on Sun Wuming's body, and the hair that stood upright was dyed golden. Super, Saiyan. This, Wuming, what kind of gesture is this? In the mirror space, Tony's voice was trembling. Even if he wasn't there, Tony could still feel the suffocating pressure from a different dimension. Please give me flowers. Doctor Strange's face turned red, a golden disc appeared in his hand, and he raised his hands to the sky. King. Come and help me. The mirror space is about to collapse. Wong quickly cast spells, supporting Doctor Strange. Wuming, let's win. The thunder axe in Thor's hand was almost crushed, and he wanted to rush out and fight side by side with Sun Wuming. But he knows that in front of Thanos, who has 5 gems, he is not even a dish. Thanos, thank you, your mission has been accomplished. Sun Wuming said slowly, his voice became richer, his eyes were as sharp as knives, and his golden aura was like an invisible flame, soaring straight into the sky like his wildly dancing blonde hair. Click. Just by making a fist, cracks began to appear in the surrounding space. Strength. Unparalleled power. Sun Wuming's strength increased 50 times in an instant. Super Saiyan Level 1, completely completed. Thanos saw a flash of golden light, followed by a dull sound, and his body felt pain and flew backwards. Immediately afterwards, Sun Wuming flew up again and met his eyes, making Thanos feel terrified. Boom. With another punch, half of Thanos' body was exploded. He endured the pain and urged the reality gem to repair his body, and then used the space gem to escape. What exactly is going on? Why did he become so strong all at once? The power gem inspired, and the purple beam of light came through the sky. Sun Wuming still chose to use turtle-style Qigong to catch it. What shocked Thanos this time was that the two forces were in a stalemate. It is no longer like before, it collapses at the first touch. What does this mean? It means that Sun Wuming already has the power to compete with the Power Stone. Aha! Sun Wuming's arm muscles surged, pushing the purple beam of light back, bit by bit. We must not lose. Thanos looked hard and pulled out the Power Stone and Reality Gem. Infinity Gauntlet can only activate the power of one gem at a time, but now, a gem is no longer a match for Sun Wuming. He has to use his body to activate 2 kinds of gems at the same time. Roar! The 2 gems were held in his hands, without any protection. Even the Eternal Titan could not bear the pain. In just 1 second, Mjolnir's left hand began to fester. His eyes remained firm. Thanos knew that even if he defeated Sun Wuming with the power of the gem, his body had already been severely damaged. If he snaps his fingers again, he is likely to die on the spot. But he has no regrets. This is the path he pursues. Raising the arm holding the gem, Thanos swung it out ferociously. Sun Wuming raised his hands high, Qigong bullets appeared in both palms at the same time, and then suddenly clasped his hands together. Rumble. The final competition has finally arrived. This is Thanos' decisive blow and Sun Wuming's most powerful turtle-style Qigong. Dazzling blue and dark purple have become the only colors in the world. At first, each occupied half of the space, with purple taking the lead and pushing forward slowly, while blue was constantly decreasing. But this momentum was quickly curbed. There was despair in Thanos' eyes. It's not that gems aren't strong enough. But he is not strong enough. His right arm is slowly decomposing and dissipating, and he can no longer use the power of the two gems. Without the follow-up force, the turtle Qigong pressed forward inch by inch. 30%. 50%, 70%. 80%. 90%. In the end, it was about to swallow him up. Sun Wuming, Thanos let out the last mournful roar before his death, and was immediately swallowed up by the torrent of energy and turned into smoke. And at the last moment, the soul gem, which had never been used by him, shook and emitted a faint light. Endless dimensions, endless parallel universes. Almost at the same time, all the demons stopped what they were doing. Mouthing in his mouth. Sun Wuming, finally transformed, but Chao Zhangyi is just the starting point. The plot about this universe is not over yet, and there will be more drama in the future. Readers can look forward to it. In addition, I would like to thank all the big guys for your rewards and support. The little authors have seen it, thank you all. Episode 96, The Terrifying Side Effects of Snapping Fingers, Sublimation and Higher Latitudes. The light of the Turtle School Qigong slowly dissipated, Thanos returned to nothingness, and the Infinity Gauntlet could not withstand such a terrifying energy disintegration. Only 5 gems fell slowly. Sun Wuming quickly stretched out his hand, wrapped them in qi, and slowly flew to his side. At the moment, there was joy in his heart. Finally, after paying the price of the entire blue star and the moon, he successfully transformed into a Super Saiyan, and his strength entered a new dimension. It was worth the risk he took to deliver all 5 gems to Thanos. When the people in the dimensional space saw that the battle was finally over, Tony urged Doctor Strange to release them. After finding a floating continent barely large enough for people to stand on, Doctor Strange deactivated the mirror space and opened the portal. Sun Wuming looked up and saw the portal appearing. Before the people on the other side came over, he flew over the pressure. Boom. People standing closer were directly blown away by the strong airflow around him. Sorry, I just learned this state and I still can't control it. Sun Wuming scratched his head and his tone was a little stiff. After the transformation was released, he returned to normal, showing his usual sunny smile. The pressure in everyone's minds also dissipated. What Sun Wuming did just now was so terrifying, they almost thought they were here to silence them. Transforming into a Super Saiyan can increase your strength by 50 times without limit, but it is not without side effects. Extreme anger will cause S cells to grow explosively in an instant and successfully transform. During the battle, Sun Wuming's mood was very unstable. Angers coming out of nowhere were stimulating his brain, but he had to remain absolutely calm to maintain his transformation. In addition, he could not perfectly control the sudden surge of so much energy, and the energy consumption of his body also increased tremendously, making it impossible for him to make accurate use of his body's power. Wuming, give the gem to Hulk and restore everything to its original state. Tony said quickly. Thinking of the pain his Morgan had just suffered, Tony was heartbroken beyond measure. But he also knows that Sun Wuming can't control all this, and Thanos, who has the gem, is a big shot. Wait a moment. Sun Wuming raised his hand, the space in front of him blurred, and he took out a little girl from his pocket. Who else could it be if it wasn't Morgan? Morgan! Pepper exclaimed, ran over quickly, took her daughter, and shed tears. Only little Morgan didn't know what was going on, and clapped his hands happily when he saw Tony and Pepper. Daddy, Mommy, there's so much water. Sun Wuming looked at the happy little loli with a smile. He had already expected the current situation, and even imagined the worst situation. How could he watch such a cute princess suffer? Even before the war started, Sun Wuming brought Morgan into his own dimensional space and used the time gem as a pillar to ensure that this space would not be affected by his battle with Thanos. Thanks. Tony hugged Sun Wuming and patted his back hard. I don't like men, especially old men. Fark, I don't like it either. Tony laughed. Morgan's appearance finally made the atmosphere more relaxed, but the snap of the fingers still required a fight. Banner squeezed in front of Sun Wuming with a smile on his face and just snapped his fingers. He had experience. Although the process of putting on gloves was painful, as long as he snapped his fingers and ate the beans, he would be fine. But Sun Wuming rejected him. Why? Banner looked at Sun Wuming in disbelief. I am the only one here who can withstand the side effects of gems. Are you going to let that guy whose body is full of cheese come? Thor's face darkened. No, Banner, this matter is not as simple as you think. You don't understand your body, or soul. Sun Wuming shook his head. The group of people heard this inexplicably. Only Strange looked at Banner thoughtfully. The power of the 6 gems is too great. The gamma rays damage your body, but at the same time, there is a strange power that hurts your soul. If I had to define it, it would be the power of rules. Banner, if you snap your fingers again, you will blink out. Sun Wuming is not being alarmist. On the surface, Banner has completely disappeared after being treated with fairy beans. But through the induction of breath, Sun Wuming could already feel that Banner's energy had weakened by more than one level. In order to increase his persuasiveness, he prepared to give a live demonstration. Puff. Sun Wuming slapped Banner on the chest, originally intending to punch out his soul like goo. As a result, because I had never used this trick before, I was a little heavy-handed. The Avengers look weird. What does this mean? Only Strange, who could see the soul, had a look of reminiscence on his face. The Ancient One treated him the same way at that time, but he was not so wolfish. Don't worry about these details. Sun Wuming waved his hand awkwardly. Banner, compared to when you were in New York, do you notice any difference? Banner, who was in a state of soul, raised his hands and looked at them. Compared to the time in New York, his soul was more erratic, even a little loose, as if it would dissipate at any time. He couldn't help but murmured, my soul has faded? You're right to understand it that way. Black lines appeared on Sun Wuming's forehead, causing Banner's soul to return to its original form. His current soul was too fragile to stay outside for a long time. Now you understand, the damage to your soul cannot be repaired. It will only take decades to smooth it out. Banner nodded blankly. What should we do? Who will snap their fingers? For a moment, the atmosphere became dull. Everyone was looking at the 5 gems floating around Sun Wuming. I'll do it. A female voice came, and Scarlet Witch walked over, her face numb. When Thanos died, her desire for revenge also disappeared, and she only felt like a walking corpse. Even if you die after snapping your fingers, it won't be a big deal. No, you can't, Wanda, your mind is too messed up right now. Tony rejected it without hesitation. He could see the state of it the moment at a glance. When you snap your fingers, you must concentrate on it without any distracting thoughts. Can you do it? The more critical point is that Tony did not say that he was afraid that Wanda would suddenly go crazy and exchange the wish of the gem for vision. Taking a deep breath, Tony rubbed the armor on his right hand. Just as he was about to say something, he heard Sun Wuming speak. Let me do it. I can withstand the power of gems. Tony was shocked. Wuming, this is a matter of our universe, we can't let you do anything. It's not an adventure, I also want to experience the joy of snapping my fingers. Sun Wuming shook his head and stretched out his arms. Lend me your armor. Have you noticed it a long time ago? Tony asked in a serious voice. If you don't, you wouldn't be Tony Stark. No wonder you are my friend. Tony smiled in relief. As early as when he was making the Infinity Gauntlet, he had already made a guess. Did the 1 in 14 million chance fall on him? The nano armor was like a watermark, flowing from Tony's arm to Sun Wuming's arm, forming an armor with 6 grooves on the back of the palm. With a ding sound, the first space gem was embedded in the glove. Well, I feel nothing. The second one, mind gem. The third one, reality gem. The fourth one is the power gem. Sun Wuming felt the changes, huge waves of energy were washing through his body, and his gloves were filled with light. Can you hold on? Tony asked nervously. It's okay, I just feel my hand is a little heavy. Sun Wuming made an okay gesture and inserted the soul gem, raising the pressure to a higher level. Without pausing, he summoned the Eye of Agamotto and took out the time gem. The last one. Ding. A crisp sound came, and Sun Wuming raised his head and narrowed his eyes. The 6th gem is a qualitative change. The sudden increase in power is a small problem, but the level of power rises with it, and the terrifying pressure it brings makes even Sun Wuming feel painful. Get out of the way. Sun Wuming said something and re-entered Super Saiyan Level 1. The terrifying power that seemed to crush him into powder was offset. Tony, Thor, Captain America, Hawkeye and others looked nervously at the Sun Wuming floating in the sky. Success or failure depends on this. With the 6 gems in one, Sun Wuming only felt a sense of sublimation. He had transcended this latitude and reached a higher level, overlooking the world. No, he is looking down at the entire multi-universe and has entered a state of omniscience and omnipotence. omnipresent, omnipotent, do whatever you want. Groups of gorgeous light clusters represent different universes, but in appearance, they are basically the same. Are they similar flowers? Sun Wuming murmured, gaining a deeper understanding of the concept of multiple levels. His current state has reached the pinnacle of the single universe. Although it only has the power of one blow, it is infinitely close to being multidimensional. The reason why it is not multidimensional is also because the scope of gem sublimation is locked in the range of the single universe. When the thinking level rises, the concept of time no longer exists. Sun Wuming digested his thoughts before snapping his fingers. Snapped. With a crisp sound, the power of rule was distributed throughout the galaxy. The confrontation with Thanos just now caused many stars in the galaxy to deviate from their original trajectories. In order to avoid unpredictable events, Sun Wuming restored everything to their original state. After snapping his fingers, he also exited that mysterious realm, and his aura was a little weak. Sun Wuming felt tired and depressed. A snap of his fingers won't hurt him now, but if he snaps his fingers for the second or third time in a row, the side effects will continue to accumulate. No wonder Thanos in this world would take a long time to destroy all the gems after snapping his fingers. Because he couldn't hit it a second time in a row, let alone offset the impact of the gem. 2 days later. Blue Star, which was once fragmented and almost disintegrated, has regained its life. The humans who died due to the battle between Sun Wuming and Thanos have also returned, and their memories of that time have been erased. However, the Avengers' headquarters was destroyed before that and is still in ruins today. Fortunately, Tony has a lot of money and land, and the headquarters can have as many as he wants. Sun Wuming followed the Avengers to one of Stark's mansions. Let me introduce you, this is Peter Parker, not your classmate Parker, nor your Spider-Man girlfriend. All crises have been resolved, and Tony's temperament has returned to its original state, even more out of the box. Hey, nice to meet you. I'm Peter. I'm going to be a senior in high school this year. I saw the battle that day. It was so cool, especially the blonde hair, etc. The chatterbox realized something was wrong and looked at Tony blankly. What do you mean his Spider-Man girlfriend? Tony, showing a wicked smile, didn't I tell you? In Wuming's world, Spider-Man is his girlfriend. What? Fake. No, I'm not gay. Peter's eyes instantly turned frightened, and he clutched his chest in embarrassment. Although you are very strong, have a good figure, and look. He is also very handsome, but I like women. The other Avengers burst into laughter. Banner was the kindest one, explaining to him, the Spider-Man in that world was not Peter Parker, but a girl named Gwen. Sun Wuming smiled and nodded. I also have a classmate named Peter Parker, but I prefer to call him Garfield. The first generation of spiders relied on mutation, the second generation of spiders relied on technology, and the third generation of spiders, the direct father of Iron Man. Now that Tony is not dead, Sun Wuming cannot even imagine what this guy will become in the future. After listening to Banner's explanation, Peter calmed down and looked at his father sadly. Tony winked and asked Peter to go play while the others got down to business. The time machine will take some time to complete, but don't worry, I will set the time node to 5 seconds after you travel through 5.5, and there will be no impact. In addition, it is best not to tell anyone about the development of this universe. Time is the most mysterious and unpredictable. All gifts are secretly marked with a price. Wuming, although you are very strong, there are some risks that are best avoided. Sun Wuming nodded. He understood this truth, but he also understood Marvel's timeline. His time and space had already begun to mutate. 2 of Obsidian's 5 generals came to Blue Star, and they would still be slaughtered. Only when you are strong enough can you ensure that everything develops according to your own plan. Sun Wuming asked, Tony, can I take back some of the technology you have here? Will this have any impact? This? Tony pondered for a moment, chatted with Banner and Rocket for a few more words before giving his answer. It should be possible, but don't give it to me in that world all at once. I know how much of a B***D I was at that time. Tony smiled bitterly. The Ultron crisis he caused was also a disaster of world-destroying proportions. Okay, I will keep an eye on Tony. In that case, you can stay for 2 more days, and I'll sort it out for you. Sun Wuming nodded. After chatting for a while, the Avengers went about their own work. 5 years have passed, and the world has changed. The resettlement of those who have experienced Shumiao is also a big problem, and it will take a while. In the end, only Sun Wuming and the previous Sorcerer Supreme, Dr. Strange, were left. Wuming, can I call you this? The doctor sat up straight and asked the question that had been hidden in his heart for a long time. Why haven't I seen you in all the possible observations I've made? Episode 97, I am the chosen one and the only one, a friendly match with Captain Marvel. Strange, there's no need to be so serious. Sun Wuming pressed down with one hand, signaling Doctor Strange to relax. You helped me a lot in my time in space, and we have a pretty good relationship. Oh? Really? Strange also showed a smile. You are so strong, do you still need my help? That's for sure. Sun Wuming said with a serious face, if it weren't for threatening your life, I don't know when Ancient One would be willing to see me. Strange's smile faltered. Is this so helpful? Ha ha ha, don't mind, you lived peacefully in that world, very safe, the Ancient One has erased your memory. Okay, Wuming. Strange smiled helplessly, and could only wish for happiness for himself in that world. Can I tell you something now? How to explain? Sun Wuming pondered, snapped his fingers, and 2 cups of hot tea appeared on the table. He picked it up and took a sip. This may sound narcissistic, but it is the truth. Marvel has countless parallel universes and dimensional spaces. In each parallel universe, there may be a Sorcerer Supreme named Strange and an Iron Man named Tony. But there is only one Sun Wuming, existing in that unique time and space. It's me who should say what Thanos said. Sun Wuming put down the teacup in his hand and said calmly, I am the chosen one and the only one. Strange was silent, his brow still furrowed. Even if you are special, Time Gem can still observe. No, Strange. Sun Wuming interrupted him, Time Gem is not omnipotent, don't be too superstitious about it, and besides, you are not yet proficient in controlling it. Strange was a little dissatisfied. How many times had he negotiated terms with Dormammu? How could he still be called unskilled? But Sun Wuming's next words completely silenced him. Even if 12 Ancient One wants to observe me, she has to observe me sideways from the perspective of others. As my strength increases, she can see less and less. Not to mention you. Okay, you are the boss and you are awesome. Strange gave up decisively. The more he studied magic, the more he understood how big the gap between him and the Ancient One was. It's no surprise that he can't see anything even the Ancient One can't do. Thinking of this, Strange felt a little envious of himself in that world. At least with the existence of Sun Wuming, there is no need to experience the pain of flickering again. The feeling of watching one's own death was not pleasant, especially after returning and finding out that Christine had been engaged in 5 years. He felt even more uncomfortable. Will you become the Sorcerer Supreme? He suddenly looked at Sun Wuming expectantly. If Sun Wuming becomes the Sorcerer Supreme, can he be asked to help solve that weird car accident so that he can live as a normal person in that time and space? No, the Sorcerer Supreme will only be you. Sun Wuming said decisively, such a tiring, sacred job can only be done by someone with extraordinary ability like you. Strange's head is full of black lines. He heard clearly. Okay, Strange, don't worry about your fate, there is a bigger crisis in front of you now. You mean? Strange's expression suddenly turned solemn. Wow. Sun Wuming waved his hand, and the whole house darkened, and the vast starry sky appeared, with 6 gems blooming with strange brilliance. Infinite gems are the agglomeration of 6 singular points that concentrated infinite energy before the Big Bang. They are part of this universe and are the key force in maintaining the stability of the universe. And now, all the gems in your universe have been destroyed by Thanos and reduced to a subatomic state. Although they will condense again in a corner of the universe, it will be thousands of years later. As the words fell, the gems in the sky slowly dissipated, and the light of the endless galaxy dimmed. Before this universe will be in an extremely unstable state, and any crisis is likely to occur, even more frequently than before. After Sun Wuming finished speaking, Strange's expression changed. Now that he has lost his time gem, he cannot observe the future timeline. He is not sure whether it is alarmist or not. Wuming, I need Kamartaj to go and confirm. Strange couldn't sit still immediately. After saying hello, he opened the portal and returned to Kamartaj to read a book. It seems that the days to come will be more tiring. I thought it would be easier if Thanos died. A female voice came from behind. Captain Marvel walked to Strange's seat and sat down. He raised his slender thighs and looked at Sun Wuming. Makes him a little embarrassed. During the previous battle with Thanos, the timing of Captain Marvel's intervention was too subtle. It happened to be when the S-cells were activated and the anger in Sun Wuming's heart reached its peak. If he had come earlier or later, and waited for him to successfully transform, he wouldn't be so unlucky. Carol, what happened last time was my fault, and I apologize to you. Captain Marvel smiled heartily and didn't care about it. It doesn't matter, your state at the time was very delicate, and I was a little reckless, but the punch was powerful enough. I took 2 days to slow down before flying to the Blue Tomb. Her generosity made Sun Wuming even more embarrassed. If you encounter anything in the future, you can come to me for help through the time machine and never shirk. It's a deal. Captain Marvel applauded, now I have something I want to talk to you about. Ah? Sun Wuming was stunned. In the deepest part of the Pacific Ocean, 2 figures stood in the void. They were Sun Wuming and Carol. It turned out that Carol, who was instantly killed by Sun Wuming with one punch, was a little unconvinced. At that time, her attention was entirely on Thanos, and she had no idea that her comrade-in-arms would sneak up on her. The punch was solid and there was no defense. Later, when she heard about Sun Wuming's last deeds, she also wanted to prove herself. Even if he is not his opponent, he still needs to hold on for a few more moves. Boom. The wave soaring into the sky rose again. Captain Marvel entered the binary star form, and his combat power instantly soared to a level that was on par with, or even better than, normal Thanos. Aren't you going to get into that blonde state? Captain Marvel asked. No need, I'm not proficient in that form yet. Sun Wuming shook his head and motioned for her to just come over. Even if he doesn't transform into a Super Saiyan, his current strength is several times higher than before he fought Thanos. If he were to fight Thanos again, he would have to kneel down and beg Thanos not to die after one punch, and it would be no different against Captain Marvel. All right. Captain Marvel looked sharply and rushed forward. In New York, as soon as the two of them fought, the energy monitoring system instantly detected the battle breaking out in the Pacific Ocean. Tony and others quickly investigated the cause. After seeing the two warring parties clearly, they first breathed a sigh of relief, and then became nervous again. Carol isn't here to take revenge on Wuming, is she? Hurry up and call Wuming. Don't beat people to death. Carol is not an enemy. Captain America said hurriedly. Tony shook his head, it shouldn't be necessary. You see, Wuming has been on the defensive the whole time, and Carol's attack is not aimed at the vital points. It is more like a sparring match. Everyone saw that this was indeed the case. Although the fight was lively, it lacked the fighting hostility. Then he breathed a sigh of relief, and immediately stopped paying attention, and everyone went about their own things. The two fought directly from afternoon to night. The last attack was easily received by Sun Wuming, and Captain Marvel also smiled bitterly and chased out the double star form. You're such a monster. Praise, you are also very strong, and your defense is stronger than Thanos. The businessmen complimented each other, and Carol suddenly asked, are you interested in accompanying me to explore the universe? Although Thanos is dead, a new crisis is bound to come. No, I just want to take care of myself and have no intention of helping others. Sun Wuming refused, we have different pursuits. In fact, Sun Wuming has always felt that Captain Marvel's thinking is too United States-based. He has not even cleaned up his own 1/3 of an acre of land, but he is rushing to maintain the peace of the universe. The scope is really too broad. Okay. Seeing how determined he was, Carol no longer forced herself. It's just a pity that she feels that a powerful person like Sun Wuming should take on greater responsibilities. Okay, then we'll meet again by chance. Sun Wuming was about to leave, but was stopped by Carol again. Would you like to come to my house to start the second half? Carol raised her eyebrows and extended the invitation. If you say this, he won't feel sleepy anymore. Just treat it as a friendly match. A week later, Avengers Base. The time machine has been built by Tony and others, and a lot of Pym particles have been produced after Pym's resurrection. After staying for so long, it's time for Sun Wuming to go back. These days, in addition to spending time with Carol to spar during the day, I also spar for a few days at night. In Sun Wuming's free time, he took little Morgan all over the world to play wildly. Little Pepper and Tozhong both had some objections. This daughter is closer to Sun Wuming than any of them. On this day, all Avengers Alliance personnel came here to see off, not only Sun Wuming, but also Captain America, who was responsible for returning the gems. Why isn't Carol here? Tony looked around and saw no sign of Captain Marvel. Ahem, she may have gone to the universe to maintain peace. Sun Wuming coughed lightly and said. He didn't show any pity for her during the past few days of sparring. The two of them just had a pure communication relationship, and they definitely enjoyed each other as they pleased. Carol is currently lying dead at home, and she probably won't be able to recover for a few days. Okay, Steve, the first thing you have to return is the Power Stone. The time has been set. Remember, don't change anything. After debugging the machine, Banner said, with lingering fear on his face. The emergence of Thanos fully proved the terrible consequences of playing with time, which made them dare not make any small moves. Don't worry, Bruce, I'll take care of it. Steve nodded and put the box away. Bucky stood next to Captain America, looked at his old friend, and the two hugged. I'm going to miss you, brother. 11. Tony witnessed the exchange between the two. He thought of something and his eyes flashed slightly, which contained a different meaning. Goodbye, Rogers. Captain America smiled and stretched out his hand. I'm sorry, Tony. Tony didn't answer, just shook his hand hard. Come on, Bruce, I'm ready. Captain America took a deep breath, Banner gently pressed the button, and Steve disappeared instantly. A minute later, Banner 227 and others panicked when they saw that Captain America had not returned. "Where are the others?" Falcon asked. "I don't know, the time has been completely synchronized, there is no problem, he should be back." Only Tony and Bucky had normal expressions. Bucky turned his head with a smile on his face and saw on the bench by the lake. An old man sat. Soon, everyone also discovered the old man and the shield beside him. Now Captain America's final choice. Pym particles are definitely enough. Even if this time and space does not go back to the original era, Captain America will make that choice. "Okay, it's your turn, Savior." Tony, Pepper, and little Morgan came to Sun Wuming. He hesitated several times and finally said softly, "Thank you for allowing me to grow up with Morgan." Until Thanos died, Tony's sense of fate disappeared, and he knew exactly what Sun Wuming's appearance meant. "We can't let the little guy lose his father at such a young age." Sun Wuming smiled and took Morgan. The little loli smacked Sun Wuming's face with some reluctance. "Uncle Wuming, you will come to see me in the future." Definitely, definitely." Sun Wuming assured. "I love you 3,000 times." The little loli said happily. "Hey, Morgan, you promised to only say this to me." Tony feigned anger, but Morgan was not afraid at all, biting his finger and thinking about it. Then 3,001 times. Sun Wuming and Pepper both laughed, but Tony couldn't laugh or cry. Returning Morgan to Pepper, Sun Wuming put on the nanosuit and stood on the time machine. Then, "See you later, later." Then he disappeared. Looking at Sun Wuming, who had disappeared, Tony and others understood that the matter was coming to an end. "What to do with this machine, Tony?" Banner looked at the time machine with hesitation, and he wanted to say destroy it. The ability to travel through time at will is a kind of destruction to the world. "Put it away, I hope we won't need it." Tony thought for 2 minutes and slowly made a decision. "Tony?" Banner looked at him puzzled. "Bruce, our world needs it, and we need him. Without infinite gems, no one knows what kind of disasters will happen in the future. These days, Doctor Strange has confirmed Sun Wuming's statement from Kamartaj's ancient books." Tony looked at the machine in front of him. "When the time comes, Wuming will be the only reinforcement we can ask for." What Tony didn't say was that he had handed over the manufacturing method of the time machine and the synthesis process of Pym particles to Sun Wuming. This is the trump card he left for the world. Episode 98, Loki, I didn't do anything on horseback. Tony's Avengers are established. On the other side, Sun Wuming also returned to his main universe through quantum space. This journey through time can be described as fruitful. Not only did he successfully transform into a Super Saiyan, but by snapping his fingers, Sun Wuming gained more insights into the existence of the universe. And all this happened in less than 5 seconds in the main universe. "Welcome home, Wuming, it seems that you have gained a good harvest." Reappearing on the balcony from New York to Holy Place, Sun Wuming had just stood firm when he heard the voice of the Ancient One. Obviously, this venerable man knew that his trip would not take long, so he has been waiting here. In the blink of an eye, Ancient One already felt that Sun Wuming was completely different from before. He was just as powerful 5 seconds ago, but the Ancient One felt no threat to his life. But now, what is hidden under the calm appearance is like an active volcano, which can spew out hot magma at any time and turn him into ashes. "Sir, you should have expected this." Sun Wuming took a few seconds to recover and turned around with a smile. Ancient One denied, "I knew this trip would be helpful to you, but I didn't expect there would be such a big change." She looked at Wuming with satisfaction and said, "Consider my proposal again. If you can become Sorcerer Supreme, I can retire tomorrow." "Stop talking." Sun Wuming took out the Eye of Agamotto and threw it to the Ancient One without mercy. Infinite gems are quite fragrant, but only after collecting them all. A single gem is of little help to Sun Wuming's current strength. He does have the idea of collecting Time Gem from this universe, but he should leave the Time Gem to Strange for now. The two of them have such a good relationship, so it wouldn't be a problem to borrow it if necessary. Seeing Sun Wuming disappear on the rooftop as if running away, Ancient One burst into laughter. "It seems that this Sorcerer Supreme position, she will have to return this year. Do you want Wuming to do a favor and create Strange Wound in advance? It seems to be a way." The Battle of New York has ended. In the Stark building, Tony and others had a dispute with Pierce, who came over because of the ownership of the Tesseract. During the argument, the arc reactor on Tony's chest suddenly short-circuited and he collapsed to the ground. The two sides were about to start a fight. "What are you doing? It's so lively." Sun Wuming's light words appeared. Hulk, who had just walked down the stairs, was about to vent his anger that he couldn't take the elevator. When he saw him, his raised fists immediately turned into head-scratching movements. "Wuming, you came just in time, look at Tony." Thor was overjoyed and said quickly, "Don't worry, it's a small matter." Sun Wuming stretched out his hand, and the hammer in Thor's hand flew into his hand, and he also tied Loki over. A small electric current was emitted from the hammer and hit the reactor on Tony's chest, reactivating it. That's how it feels. Thanks Wuming. Tony breathed a sigh of relief. Where's the Tesseract? Yes, where's the Tesseract? Thor then realized, where's the box that raided the Tesseract? Under that tree. Seeing the future Captain America secretly put the things back, nodded to him and then disappeared, Sun Wuming gave a reminder. Thor quickly ran over, pushed aside the SHIELD agent, and took the box over. Sun Wuming looked at Pierce, who had cold sweat on his forehead. Minister Pierce, the Tesseract used to be an Asgard treasure. Later Thor agreed to give it to me. Now it is just loaned to him temporarily. I can understand that SHIELD wants to steal my things? Thor opened his mouth, wanting to say that his father hadn't agreed yet, and the Tesseract was still Asgard's treasure. However, after experiencing many things, Thor has grown a lot. I know that saying it now is a slap in Sun Wuming's face. Wisely chose to shut up. No, Mr. Sun misunderstood. SHIELD has no such idea. Pierce sweat dropped and quickly explained, we just want to put Loki on trial, and the Tesseract is an important evidence. No, Loki will be imprisoned in Asgard's prison. If you want Asgard to start a war with Earth now, I can just wring his neck. Loki's eyes were horrified, his mouth was stuffed with a ball, and he was whimpering in words that no one could understand. Before Pierce could speak, Tony was a little unhappy. He has done so many wrong things, so why should he go back to Asgard and hide in his mother's arms, and cry bitterly? Even though the battle has just ended and no specific casualty statistics have been released, the Chitauri brought by Loki caused at least tens of thousands of casualties and countless monetary losses. Tony just wanted to blow him to pieces with these few shots. This was because Thor fought hard to kill a few Leviathans in the end and established a comradeship, so he didn't act impulsively. Tony was sure that Loki wouldn't be severely punished if he returned to Asgard. The most he could do was to be locked up. I owe Odin a favor. Loki will spare him just once. Sun Wuming whispered in his ear. Tony gave Loki an indignant look and stopped caring. The thought in my heart became stronger. At this time, Captain America also came down rubbing his aching head. When he saw Loki, he came up angrily and punched him in the stomach. Boom. Loki. What conspiracy do you have? Thor was confused, Tony was confused, and Sun Wuming was also confused. Even Loki was confused. What happened? Looking at the puzzled looks of the three people, Captain America explained, just now, Loki turned into me and attacked and knocked me unconscious, and also snatched away the scepter. Thor looked at the box in his hand, don't you have the scepter in your hand? This is also what confused me. Captain America nodded, when I woke up, I found that the box was not far away, and the scepter was not lost. He must have some conspiracy. You're right. Thor agreed, took off Loki's mouth ball, and asked fiercely, tell me. What do you want to do? Haven't you made enough trouble? Loki was going crazy, I was almost beaten to death by you and that stupid guy when I was riding on a horse. And being tied up like this, what else can I do if I'm riding on a horse? The two brothers quarreled again. Sun Wuming looked at Pierce, who smiled obediently, and fled decisively with Sitwell and others. Give me the scepter. Sun Wuming stretched out his hand to Captain America. Captain America frowned, this is S.H.I.E.L.D. No, this is my trophy. What role did SHIELD play in this war? Sun Wuming clenched his fists, don't force me to do it. Captain America thought for a while and handed the box containing the scepter to Sun Wuming. After Nick Fury studied Tesseract to make weapons, Captain America actually didn't have that much trust in S.H.I.E.L.D. Perhaps putting it in the hands of Sun Wuming is a safer choice. An hour later, the Avengers gathered again, including Sun Wuming and Gwen, and they went to a Middle Eastern barbecue restaurant to celebrate their victory. This meal is not simple. Everyone who eats this meal will survive the future Sun Wuming incident. Because of Gwen's existence, Tony bought this store directly, allowing the chefs to finish work and get off work after finishing a large table full of dishes. So social animals are really miserable. Even if aliens invade and the end of the world comes, they still have to go to work. Come. Let me toast you. Tony raised his glass. Although it was very difficult, with everyone's efforts, we successfully repelled the Chitauri and defeated Loki's conspiracy. And you, Wuming, you are my hero. Everyone raised their glasses in cooperation, and Thor drank it down happily. This wine is not enough. After the Bifrost is repaired, I will bring Asgard's fine wine. Everyone is still drunk. Tony's eyes lit up, remember what you said, shock it boy, I'm looking forward to it. Sun Wuming did not drink, but took a glass of orange juice with everyone. Gwen had a smile on her face. This kind of saving the world is so cool. She killed a lot of Chitauri today and even defeated 2 Leviathans. She felt full of accomplishment. The atmosphere at the dinner table was very harmonious, and the common battle experience made everyone who was not familiar with each other quickly become familiar with each other. Thor clinked a drink with everyone, bragging loudly about his exploits in Asgard. Loki was tied up tightly and looked at his brother in disbelief. "Guzzy, you have changed. You're so happy, feed me some too." Sun Wuming ate happily. He liked this kind of Middle Eastern barbecue. He rolled it up with a thin piece of ice and added some pickled radish and pickled cucumber. It was delicious and filling. "Mr. Sunday." Banner raised his glass, looking a little nervous. "Just call me Wuming. If you hadn't resigned, you might still be my professor." Sun Wuming met him. "Are you studying in Columbia?" Banner was a little surprised. "Me and Gwen both." Gwen rolled her eyes. "This bad guy stayed with her for 2 or 3 days and then disappeared." "Great, Columbia is very good." Banner tried hard to find a topic, but found that he and Sun Wuming really had nothing to talk about. Neither of them knew each other before. Well, they can be considered acquaintances, after all, they are not acquainted without fighting, and even Zucker was praised twice. "Wuming, can I follow you from now on? Only you can suppress Hulk and prevent him from messing around. I can work for you. I have 7 doctorate degrees. I heard that Longzhu technology belongs to you. I can work for free." Banner pleaded. He could feel next to Sun Wuming that Hulk had no idea of coming out and wished he could hide forever. "Hey Banner." Tony put his arm around his shoulders. "Wuming wants to live a world of 2 with Gwen, and you are a third party intervening." Under Sun Wuming's warning gaze, Tony quickly stopped. "Why don't you come with me? If Hulk comes out, I can ask Wuming to come over immediately." Banner looked at Sun Wuming with searching eyes until he nodded, and then agreed to Tony. "What about you?" Tony looked at the others again. "You have also seen that in this war, SHIELD has almost no experience. This world is saved by Wuming, Miss Spider, and everyone here. No one can tell whether other aliens will invade Blue Star in the future. We must be prepared in advance." Tony continued to use his tricks of deception. Although Nick Fury is not good in character and ability, he has a pretty good idea. "I want to set up an Avengers to specifically deal with this kind of crisis that threatens Blue Star." Sun Wuming paused and continued eating the barbecue. "Although there are some changes, is the Avenger not Jen?" "I'm joining. I'm willing to protect Blue Star and Jane." Thor said boldly, "But I can't stay here forever. I will let Heimdall observe Blue Star's situation for a long time." "Awesome, with you, I don't have to worry about energy issues anymore." Tony patted his account and continued to look at the others. "I don't care, I'm just an ordinary person." 17 Hawkeye shook his head. "Besides, I'm still SHIELDS, Wang Li Zhao, agent, so I'm not suitable." "Legolas, don't deny yourself so much. You can shoot really accurately. I will make a new set of bows and arrows tailor-made for you. And you, Natasha Romanoff, Nick Fury, this boss is so evil." After some persuasion, Banner, Captain America, and Black Widow all joined Tony's plan. Only Hawkeye kept refusing, and Tony had no other solution except to discuss it later. Finally, he turned his attention to Sun Wuming, who had not expressed his stance. "Wuming. Tony, you know me." Sun Wuming ate the last burrito and wiped his mouth slowly. "I have no interest in such activities at all. But you took action this time." Tony tried to convince him, "You have saved this city 3 times. Because they disturbed me." Sun Wuming shrugged. "Not joining your Avengers plan doesn't mean that I don't care about everything, but I just don't want to be entangled in trivial matters. I'm going home with Gwen first. By the way, when you're done with this period of time, come see me again. I have something to tell you." After saying that, Sun Wuming got up and left with Gwen. Looking at the 2 people leaving, and I could only feel helpless. Arriving at a deserted corner, Sun Wuming opened the portal and walked in with Gwen. "My uncles and aunts will be able to come back in a few days, and Queens will hardly be affected. What a pity. I was hoping that the insurance company would compensate me a large sum of money so that I could change my house. Have you chosen a good location? We can buy it first. Housing prices in New York must have plummeted recently." The 2 of them walked through the portal while talking, and heard a resentful voice. "You are finally back." Episode 99, Polaris Arrangement, Blackheart Sun Wuming. The sudden sound startled Gwen and Sun Wuming. An idea flashed in Sun Wuming's mind, and she finally remembered something and patted her head. "Wuming, who is she?" Gwen asked in disbelief. She had already seen the speaker. She was a beautiful girl with green hair. She was young and had extremely delicate facial features. "I went out to fight a war." Wuming dared to bring the woman home. "No, Gwen, please listen to my explanation. Seeing that Gwen had Blacken's tendency, Sun Wuming quickly explained the origin of Lorna. It seems that less than half a day has passed, but Sun Wuming has been in another time and space for almost half a month. He was beating Thanos again, snapping his fingers again, and sparring with Carol for several days. After experiencing so much, he had long forgotten about Lorna. Only after seeing this did he remember that he had just kidnapped a little girl back in the afternoon. Are you sure you're not motivated by S**X? Gwen looked at the young man suspiciously. The two of them have known each other for a long time, and Gwen also knows Sun Wuming's temperament very well. This guy is a pure beauty control. How could I lie to you? I really just appreciate her ability. Sun Wuming vowed. Lorna, perform a show quickly. I'm not a street performer. Under Sun Wuming's half-threatening, half-desiring gaze, Lorna sighed and stretched out her palm. Lorna's impression of Sun Wuming has undergone earth-shaking changes. Originally, in her understanding, Saiyan should have a very domineering character. She saw him beating Hulk violently, killing abominations, and stealing the United States Army on TV. At first glance, he looks very decisive. But now it seems that is not the case at all. This made Lorna even more curious about Sun Wuming. A faint green light emitted from his right hand, and the metal tableware in the restaurant floated up and flew to Lorna's side. The two forks melted and merged into an iron ball. It's amazing. Gwen opened her mouth slightly and showed her ability to control metal. This is definitely a first-class existence in modern society. She was even a little envious of Lorna, who looked even cooler than his spider ability. Now you believe it. Sun Wuming spread his hands, his innocence finally preserved. Humph, you passed the test. Gwen snorted, took Lorna's hand, and sat on the sofa to chat. 847. She is very interested in Lorna's ability. I was angry at first, because Sun Wuming brought people into the house without saying a word, without even making any preparations. She had long been mentally prepared for other women to appear around Sun Wuming in the end. After all, her man was too strong and she couldn't bear it alone. Now that the misunderstanding is resolved, she will naturally not be prejudiced against Lorna. And Lorna, because Gwen is her kind, is not afraid of her ability and is very happy. The two women started chatting, but Sun Wuming was put aside. He didn't care, as long as the test was over. After chatting for a while, Lorna remembered a question and looked at Sun Wuming, who was sitting aside playing with his mobile phone. Did you need to do anything to bring me here? Definitely. Sun Wuming put down the phone. Florida. New York State doesn't support idle people. I think your ability can make a big difference. Lorna's eyes flashed with anticipation, and Gwen also became interested. Both of them were curious about how Sun Wuming would arrange Lorna. Especially Lorna, she is already imagining that Sun Wuming will arrange an extremely difficult task for her, and she must go through many difficulties and obstacles to complete it, and ultimately save the world. Sun Wuming looked serious. Now that Manhattan is in ruins, this is your opportunity to show off your talents. I have hired dozens of construction companies. They need a lot of steel bars and various alloys. With your help, Lorna, I will definitely make a lot of money. Gwen was stunned. Lorna was also stunned. You asked me to be a construction worker? What are you talking about? Sun Wuming looked at her with an angry look on his face. This is called a city planner, so glorious. No. Lorna screamed, I don't want it. The beautiful fantasies in her heart collapsed, and Lorna was about to cry. It's so shameful to use super ability to move steel bars at a construction site. Are you really not going to do it? Sun Wuming said quietly, $50,000 a month. Gudong. Lorna swallowed. There are also 5 insurances and 1 fund, 14 days of paid vacation a year, and 2 weekends off. Stop talking, my king. Lorna's eyes instantly became firm. $50,000, she had never seen so much money in her life, and she had 2 weekends off. Sun Wuming is really a conscientious boss. Gwen was dumbfounded as she witnessed Lorna's sudden change of expression. Wasn't she still willing to die rather than give in? Why did you agree all of a sudden? Chitauri was driven away, but what was left in Manhattan was a mess and a lingering shadow in people's hearts. This is the first time in history that people have seen extraterrestrial civilizations other than Blue Star, and they are still so aggressive. At the same time, Spider-Woman, Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, and even superheroes like Hulk have officially entered people's field of vision. Although Tony and Gwen often visited New York in the past, they only did small things, or the incidents were resolved quickly without causing too much trouble. But this time is different. Without them, without the Saiyan who was like a god on earth, perhaps Blue Star would have become the pasture of Chitauri. People finally realized how terrifying the power that overcame modern weapons was. 2 days later, Tony announced the establishment of Avengers, officially renamed the former Stark Building to Avengers Building, and held a grand press conference. This move added fuel to the fire. Comments were polarizing. Some people feel at ease, because the attitude of these superheroes is very clear: they will protect Blue Star, and the United States government's dropping of boxed eggs into New York was also exposed. Compared to such unreliable tricks, they feel that the Avengers are simply the real saviors of the world. The only pity is that the most powerful Saiyan does not appear in the Avengers list. A small group of people are very disgusted with the Avengers and believe that they are responsible for turning Manhattan into this, and they must pay the price for it. Moreover, if such a powerful personal force is not restrained, it will make people feel uneasy, and a regulatory department must be established. Politicians have a headache. The Security Council's video conference was held again. Standing in the middle is Nick Fury. Nick Fury, is this the special team you initiated? At the moment, Nick Fury looks much older and his mental state is somewhat poor. Yeah, but I've lost control of this team and now their leader is Tony. This time, Nick Fury failed completely. The space carrier that SHIELD spent so much effort to build was so vulnerable to the two aliens that it was completely destroyed after only one voyage. A large number of elite members died, and the Avengers' plan he had in mind was copied by Tony, leaving nothing behind. After hearing his answer, several people on the screen were silent for a moment, and then another person asked, "Do you have any way to restrict them? It is definitely very dangerous to have such a powerful force without control." "I'm sorry, sir, the impact I can have is limited, maybe only Steve and Natasha Romanoff, Stark and the others." Nick Fury shook his head and said no more. Compared to Tony, Thor, Hulk, Captain America, and Black Widow, they can only be called people and have little impact on the situation. Nick Fury also understood this very well, so he did not prevent Black Widow from leaving SHIELD and joining the Avengers. Ultimately, the order given by the Security Council was for Nick Fury to send Hawkeye into the Avengers and pass information through him and Natasha Romanoff. Since we can't control it for the time being, we must keep abreast of their developments at all times. After Nick Fury left, the Security Council meeting did not end. Pierce's picture appeared on a blank screen. "I have a proposal here. The losses in New York this time are too huge. In order to give an explanation to the people, I recommend that Nick Fury be removed from his position as S.H.I.E.L.D. director. He made too many mistakes in this operation." Sun Wuming didn't know that Pierce had already started taking action, and he was also very busy with this. "What are you busy doing?" "It's definitely about making money. Now half of the major construction companies in New York are in his hands, and hundreds of Manhattan's rising skyscrapers need to be rebuilt or repaired. It's such a huge profit, isn't it?" Winston, who has been helping Sun Wuming acquire enough construction companies, is wondering whether Sun Wuming is the one who brought the aliens this time. Otherwise, how could he have foreseen the situation and prepared so far in advance? After just thinking about it in this direction, Winston quickly stopped because he was afraid that he would know too much and be silenced. "Lorna, you have done a good job. I have decided to give you a salary increase." Sun Wuming looked at the girl in front of him happily. Lorna's ability is so useful. Not only can it help a lot in shaping steel and refining alloys, but it can even complete quality inspections. As long as she uses ability to control it, she can detect which ones just failed, which is extremely efficient. "Really? Boss, how much salary increase do you want to give me?" The girl's eyes were bright, green, the color of US dollars. Sun Wuming stretched out a finger and said, 10,000 yuan. 1 month. Lorna cheered happily. If Gwen hadn't been there, she would have pounced on him. Sun Wuming directly handed a wad of bills to the little girl, and then rushed her to work at the construction site. Gwen kept looking at her boyfriend with eyes that looked down upon him. "Wuming, doesn't your conscience hurt?" "Why does it hurt?" "You see, Lorna is not very happy. Lorna has helped you save more than $10 million in labor and technical funds in the past 2 days, and you actually gave her a raise of 10,000. Gwen was a little speechless. This was so evil. Why do children need so much money? Sun Wuming pulled Gwen close to his arms and pinched her little nose. "Besides, I am making money for you, so let's not talk about the other." "Already?" I'm not going to squeeze Lorna," Gwen said angrily. Just as the two were about to do some physical and mental health exercises, the Red Queen's voice suddenly rang out. "Master, Mr. Stark is here to visit." Unlike Jarvis, there is a hint of emotion in Red Queen's voice. Although it is not obvious, it does not sound so stiff. Sun Wuming has used the technology obtained from future Tony to upgrade the Red Queen, making it closer to true artificial intelligence. "I'm leaving first. My parents will be home soon." When Gwen heard Tony coming, she took the initiative and said, "Break free. Open the arms of Sun Wuming." "Okay, I'll go there tonight too." Gwen nodded, went out, and greeted Tony who came in. Tony unceremoniously took out a bottle of wine from Sun Wuming's wine cabinet, poured a glass, and then asked, "I heard that you found another superpower. His ability is to control steel?" His expression was a little pained. Wasn't this simply restraining the ability of his steel armor? The information is quite good. Her name is Lorna. You will meet her if you have a chance. Sun Wuming stood up and took Tony to the study. I don't think you have something to do with me. It's because your computer has crashed. That mouth of yours should be sewn shut. Sun Wuming waved his fist, scaring Tony into shutting up. He didn't wear battle armor when he came here today, and Zippy was really going to get beaten. Please take a look at these documents. I will take a copy with you later. What information do you have? Tony slid the mouse carelessly, and his expression gradually changed. Anti-gravity devices, space combat suits, particle cannon energy gathering, and structural innovations in the arc reactor. Each one is an idea in his own mind, and needs to be modified into the armor through a lot of experiments. But now it was directly taken out by Sun Wuming. He raised his head. Where did you get these technologies? Have you gone to an alien planet? There is absolutely no way this could have been done by people on Blue Star. He was confident that these technologies would at least surpass the current Blue Star level of 20 years. Perhaps after he analyzes Chitauri technology, he can shorten this process to 5 years, or even 3 years. But now that Sun Wuming has taken it out, this is the only possibility. Don't worry about where it comes from. Just say whether you want it or not. Sun Wuming couldn't tell him about traveling to the future, so he could only urge. Longzhu Technology wants 70% of the profits from the products made using these technologies in the future. This is my only requirement. I agree. Tony agreed decisively. It was no different from giving it to him for free. Wuming, can't you really say it? Before leaving, Tony asked again without giving up. Don't think about it, it's impossible. Say goodbye. After saying that, Sun Wuming decisively closed the door. Episode 100, Tony's small goal, making a deal with Hydra. Among the technologies that Tony in the future world handed over to Sun Wuming, the technology of steel armor was clearly divided into 3 stages, allowing Sun Wuming to decide by himself when to take out these technologies and hand them over to Tony in this world. Level 1 is an innovative evolution of energy application based on Chitauri's technology. Without changing the upper limit, the output power is increased, as well as some intelligent functions, such as split design, remote summoning, and sentry mode. The second stage is microstorage technology, which is a very critical node. Not only is the miniaturized storage of the armor, but also the miniaturization of various weapons, which greatly enhances the arsenal of weapons for steel warfare. The most important thing is that only by fully mastering microstorage technology can we carry out research on nanometer armor. The third stage is naturally nanotechnology, and there are also some high-level applications of energy weapons. Sun Wuming didn't dare to leave it all to Tony at once. He didn't care about the stability of the timeline. Anyway, it was already broken like this, so it didn't matter if it collapsed further. The main reason is that this guy loves to mess around so much. He often does bad things with good intentions and makes everything messy. So he had to take his time and cut the leaks, bit by bit. These techniques alone were enough for him to study for a year or 2. When Tony returned to the Stark building, he excitedly found Banner, who was fishing, and shared with him what he had learned today. Incredible. Banner pushed up his glasses. These technologies are highly similar to Chitauri, just like, someone made a conclusion after thoroughly understanding Chitauri technology. Tony, you are the only one who brought these things. Wuming gave it to me, but that guy was so mysterious that he refused to tell me the specific source. Tony looked at the long list of information on the screen with uncontrollable excitement. With these, our Veronica plan will go more smoothly. Banner nodded in agreement. It does save a lot of trouble. The 2 technical geeks rushed into the laboratory as if they had discovered a peerless beauty. A day after recruiting Banner, Tony revealed his plan to him. He wanted to create a suit of armor that could counter the Hulk. In this way, after Banner goes berserk, even if Wuming is not around, they still have countermeasures, so they need Banner to provide more information about Hulk. At first glance, Banner feels a little awkward. Let him deal with himself. How did Tony come up with such a naughty operation? But when he thought about it carefully, Banner became excited. The person who hates Hulk the most in the world right now is none other than Banner. If Tony can really make anti-Hulk armor and beat up Hulk, he will definitely transform without any hesitation and let Hulk come out and enjoy himself. In fact, Tony had some important information that he did not disclose to Banner. Anti-Hulk armor is just the first step in his grand plan. His ultimate goal is to create an anti-Saiyan armor. However, after Sun Wuming showed his strength many times, he has put this plan on hold for the time being. With the current level of technology, he could not find a weapon to restrain the Saiyans. It's better to think about this matter after you develop honestly, and set a small goal first. Just defeat Hulk first. Asgard. In the glorious Asgard hall, Odin sat on the golden throne, holding the eternal spear. His only one eye looked at Loki, who was kneeling under the stage, flashing with anger. Loki also lowered his head deeply, not daring to look at the king of God. Father. The last time Thor saw Odin so angry was the time when he made a big fuss in Jotunheim. Well, if you think about it this way, it seems that Ping has not passed for too long. That's enough, Thor. Odin's spear hit the floor tiles hard, creating cracks, showing the anger of the God King. These two sons are more troublesome than the other, and more troublemaking than the other. The eldest son caused the great war between Asgard and Jotunheim, and the giants of Jotunheim nearly conquered Asgard, disturbing his Odin's sleep. The younger son went even further and actually dared to unite with outsiders to attack Midgard. Is that a place you can mess with? Not to mention the Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One, who has been hiding behind the scenes and rarely shows up. Even Sun Wuming can't be offended by you. If it hadn't been for the good relationship he made last time, Loki would have been buried in the ground by now. Lock Loki to the dungeon. No one can release him without my order. Odin did not say a specific time. He had decided not to release Loki until he died, so as to save him from causing trouble again. As for his death, compared with the upcoming crises, Loki's little troubles are nothing. He can only ask for his own blessings. As the guard pressed Loki down, Odin's breathing became calmer, and there was a hint of relief in Thor's eyes. You did a good job this time, not only preventing Loki from escalating the situation, but also bringing back the Tesseract. Father, I just want to talk to you about this matter. Thor took out the Tesseract. Wuming said that the condition for him to let Loki go is to hand over the Tesseract to him. I have no right to make a decision and can only come back to ask for your opinion. Moreover, the scepter that Loki took from Thanos was also taken as a trophy by him. Odin's eyes narrowed. He knew exactly what the gem on the scepter was. Does Sun Wuming want to collect infinite gems? Using his divine power, Odin's divine eye looked across the 9 realms, and finally landed on Midgard. Kamar Taj, the Ancient One who was reading a book, raised his head thoughtfully, looked at Odin, and then withdrew his gaze. Far away in New York, Sun Wuming also stopped what he was doing. With a thought, his spirit body left his body and entered the star realm. What's the reason for the King of God's visit? In the bizarre astral world, Sun Wuming and Odin communicate with each other across endless time and space. I heard from Thor that you want to collect infinite gems. That's right. Sun Wuming didn't mean to hide it at all. I want to collect all 6 gems. That's very dangerous. Odin sighed. Even if 2 infinite gems are in the same place, unpredictable things will happen. I once wanted to collect infinite gems, and even collected 5, but the last one. Odin shook his head. The price was too high, and I finally gave up. Even so, it also caused a huge amount of disaster. I will be measured, Your Majesty the God King. Sun Wuming said softly, I am also considering the issue of Soul Gem, but there will always be a way. You actually know. Odin was also a little surprised and looked deeply at Sun Wuming. In this case, I won't say any more. After Bifrost is repaired, I will let Thor give the gem to you. Thank you, God King. Sun Wuming nodded slightly, watched the other party leave, and finally asked suddenly, is the Infinity Gauntlet in your vault really a fake? Odin's slightly stooped figure paused and gradually dissipated. The gems are fake. Asgard. Odin withdrew his gaze. Thor was waiting for him to make a decision and remained silent. Thor, go give the gem to Heimdall and repair the Bifrost. There has been a lot of turmoil in the 9 realms recently. After all this is resolved, give the Tesseract to Sun Wuming. Yes, father. Thor breathed a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that Odin would not be willing to hand over the Tesseract. If that happened, he would be very embarrassed in the middle. After Thor left, Odin was the only one left in the hall. After a long time, he let out a sigh. I hope my choice is right this time. He saw Ragnarok, Asgard fell, reduced to ashes and flames, and Thor was forced to flee with the remaining people. And the only one who can save Asgard is Sun Wuming. But the other party's actions of collecting gems have brought haste to this only hope. Odin didn't know what to do. Blue Star, Shield, and Nick Fury were called to Pierce's office. Pierce, why are you calling me in such a hurry? I'm very busy right now, with the aftermath in New York and Chidari's return. If it were a normal situation, Pierce would definitely comfort him with a smile on his face. The two were friends and had a superior-subordinate relationship. Nick Fury can take the position of S.H.I.E.L.D. director, and it is indispensable for Pierce's support. But today the situation is completely different. Pierce ignored Nick Fury's complaints and took out an A4 paper in a very formal manner. Nick Fury, after a decision by the Security Council, we have unanimously concluded that due to a series of mistakes you have made in the past, you are no longer suitable to serve as SHIELD director. Please give me flowers. Pierce, are you kidding me? Nick Fury's face was full of disbelief. Nick, I can't help you this time. Pierce said regretfully, you secretly researched weapons of mass destruction and killed thousands of agents. I can't bear these responsibilities, and neither can you. The development of Tesseract was authorized by the Security Council. Nick Fury was shocked and angry. How could the Security Council not know that he was doing these things? If you don't know, where did the funding and personnel support come from? Did you see the file? Pierce asked. It was your verbal promise, and those scientific researchers. I didn't, Nick. It was all your own initiative that led to the aliens and the destruction of half of New York. Pierce made the final conclusion. Nick Fury stared at his decades-old comrade. Got it all. He was pushed out to take the blame. The Security Council must find the main person responsible for this incident. If not him, the director, who else could it be? Could it be those gentlemen? Okay. Nick Fury nodded repeatedly and slammed the door angrily. Soon, the news of Nick Fury's dismissal spread within SHIELD. It didn't cause much disturbance. After all, most people are HYDRA, so it is strange for a Hydra person to be the boss for so long. His replacement as director was Hill, and Sitwell was mentioned to Hill's former position. Some of Nick Fury's old subordinates were also purged, and only those who had a close relationship with the Avengers such as Phil Coulson and Hawkeye survived. Although Hill's ability is not as strong as Nick Fury's, he is more than capable. The most important thing is that he is obedient and not as suspicious as Nick Fury. Now, Hydra's development has reached a bottleneck, and Nick Fury is no longer as important as before. After finishing all SHIELD matters and calming down the storm, Pierce did another 2 days of mental work. Finally came to Sun Wuming. This time he only brought Crossbones and Sitwell. Mr. Sun, Nick Fury has been completely kicked out by SHIELD. Pierce smiled attentively. He came here with a request. I'm just an enthusiastic New Yorker. There is no need for Secretary Pierce to tell me about such a big matter. Pierce nodded in agreement, but actually cursed inwardly. Didn't you mention that you wanted to kick Black Braised Egg away? Would he make such a big move now? To be honest, I came to you this time to make a deal. Pierce's smile remained unchanged, and he stated his purpose. Tell me. I would like to borrow your scepter to do some research. How long will it take, and what will you use in exchange? Sun Wuming didn't even raise his eyebrows. It was no big deal to make a deal with HYDRA. It just depends on the chips given by the other party. He can't be moved. 5 years. No, just 3 years. Seeing Sun Wuming's face darken, Pierce quickly changed his tune. We can pay $100 billion as a bargaining chip. If you feel it's not enough, you can still give up. Money means nothing to me. Sun Wuming shook his head. He started Longzhu Technology, firstly to research some aspects of food for himself, and secondly, to enjoy the pleasure of making money. 0. At this point, all his material needs have been met, his power belongs to himself, and he does not need more money to expand his influence. What about the seats? 10 house seats. Not interested in. After talking about it several times in a row, Sun Wuming could not bring out the slightest interest. Pierce was a little anxious. Mr. Sun, why don't you say it yourself? As long as Hydra can get it, we will not be stingy. Just waiting for your words. Sun Wuming secretly said his request. I want Hydra to provide Dr. Zola with all of his codes. Pierce's pupils shrank and he lost his voice. How do you know? Sun Wuming looked at him funny. I even know that you are HYDRA, so what's the fuss about knowing more about Zola? Okay, make your decision, whether you agree to my request 7.